Hogwarts, the first capitalist of the magical world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 278 MacBook Air 1000. Looking at the lithography machine drawings behind the young man, no one present was able to say a word. Even the Intel technical executive point looking at such a complicated drawing. In addition to an unpleasant expression, there was also an unspeakable shock in his eyes. Please, don't be so quiet. Karl looked at everyone and smiled, then snapped his fingers again, and a white light suddenly projected from behind him. A huge projection appeared behind everyone. The projection was distributed in a ring shape, just covering the entire circular building. It was a huge world map with several red dots on it, distributed among several major cities in Europe, the United States, Japan and the Eastern powers. What you are seeing now is the main component of our company's future plans, the 20th Century Olympus project. This is a complete and detailed industrial chain. The lithography machine drawings just shown are made of high-precision optical components produced in Bavaria, Germany. The electronic equipment is manufactured in France, the Netherlands and Belgium provide precision processing, and finally it is assembled in London, England. After these equipment are assembled, with the support of the British government, we will build chip manufacturing plants in Manchester, Liverpool, New York and other places. The main task of designing the chip will be placed at our head office here. As Karl spoke, red dots in several major cities in Europe and the United States were lit up one after another. Along with several related photos, it shows the manufacturing process of these devices and the construction work of the factory. And finally, countless white lights lit up on all four sides at the same time. Under the composition of light and shadow, a huge classical circular building suddenly rose from the ground. The unfinished building where everyone was present was transformed into a bright and clean modern office through the reconstruction of light and shadow. Seeing this miraculous performance, no one would doubt what the young man said anymore. Because it is very simple, under the condition of excluding the possibility that the other party may use magic, the huge computing power required for the use of this light. It is already impossible to achieve with current chips. Immediately find me all the information about this company and this boy. Anyone who has contact or is related to the relevant personnel, please send me the contact information immediately. And all the companies in the industry chain he just showed me, their stock codes and the phone numbers of their executives must be connected within 10 minutes. Just as everyone at the scene was surprised and speechless, Wall Street investors were watching the live broadcast through cameras. The situation has entered a crazy state, with tens of billions of dollars of capital beginning to flee from various sunset industries such as steel and railways. The stock prices of traditional manufacturing industries in the United States triggered the circuit breaker mechanism within just 10 minutes. And the declines exceeded 10%. Corresponding sectors such as optical manufacturing, circuit boards and electronic components have all seen the biggest increases in 10 years. Even companies such as Intel and IBM, which had been hit hard before, began to see rapid stock recoveries due to industry type effects. And on the London Stock Exchange, far across the ocean, the European manufacturing sector and the traditional British manufacturing sector have been silent for a long time. Due to the influx of a large amount of capital, a clear revival effect began to appear, with all sectors rising by more than 10%. Countless emails and faxes began to be transmitted frantically through wired telephones and Atlantic submarine cables as the news came out. Hundreds of billions of dollars in the international capital market began to be transferred in and out frantically by major banks. The global capital market has fallen into a frenzy. Almost all the capitalists who watched this live broadcast began to become curious about the blonde boy behind the screen. Back at the press conference, Karl looked at the people in the audience, who were constantly answering and making phone calls, and suddenly spoke. I know that time is very precious for all my colleagues present here, but I want to be at my press conference. We must be polite. Please allow me to finish the press conference. As for the capital financing issue that everyone is concerned about, I will reveal the answer at the end of the press conference. The company will definitely launch several rounds of financing. After all, it is such a huge industry chain. We need the participation of outstanding global companies, so please be quiet now, and let's move on to the next topic. When will we start shipping and selling? What? There are products for sale right away. I thought it was just a sample, and it would take at least 1 to 2 years before it could be put on the market. Carol's words shocked everyone present again. Everyone hung up the phone and looked at the young man on the stage with a ghostly expression. You have to know that according to the current rules of the computer hardware market, press conferences are used to brag about a complete computer CPU. It takes at least half a year from release to sales, let alone a groundbreaking launch like this. Generally speaking, this kind of press conference is mainly held by hardware manufacturers to conduct advance publicity to shareholders in the capital market. The purpose is just to raise funds or push up stock prices to make their annual financial reports look better. In a case like this, being able to come up with a real product within a year can be considered extremely conscientious. The young man in front of him was going to announce the price and release time directly at the press conference. This is simply unbelievable. Just as everyone is looking forward to the price of this CPU and when it will be released. The blonde boy suddenly waved to the backstage, and then another handsome boy walked to the center of the stage. He handed a common file bag to the blonde boy. The chip was put in a file bag. Just when everyone was puzzled, the blonde boy calmly tore open the seal of the file bag and then pulled out a silver gray object from it. The object looked like a block of metal, very thin, and looked like a large notebook. The young man held up the silver gray object and looked at everyone present with a satisfied smile. Ladies and gentlemen, please do not doubt what you are about to see. Please allow me to introduce it to you. This is our company's first product. I'm sorry to disappoint you all. This is not just a CPU, but a complete laptop, MacBook Air 1000. Karl opened his laptop and, under everyone's gaze, pressed the power button. Accompanied by the melodious sound of wind chimes, the laptop screen lit up, and a silver logo of the Deathly Hallows appeared on the dark screen. After simply entering the password, a clean and tidy desktop appeared in front of everyone. Karl operated the computer mouse, clicked on an application on the computer, and with a light click, half of the lights in the venue went out instantly. Then the light came on again, and between the flickering of light and darkness, it was not only the capital market of the whole world. Airports around the world have also gone into a frenzy. Chapter 279, Bringing the World 039's Wealth to One Person. Executives from Goldman Sachs, Morgan, Merrill Lynch, Lehman Brothers, and Bear Stearns, the largest investment banks on Wall Street, all came out in droves carrying huge amounts of money and taking various means of transportation to the airport. New York's Kennedy International Airport suddenly received notifications from countless private planes requesting to take off. The target location of the flight is extremely consistent: Santa Clara County, California. In the airport's dispatch center, the duty manager that day was so busy that his head was about to smoke, and the sound of telephones ringing one after another was heard all around him. And the sound of countless workers typing on keyboards. Boss, the investment manager at Goldman Sachs asked us to arrange for his private jet to take off immediately. He said he would only give us no more than 5 minutes. If it is too late, he will immediately arrange for people to withdraw the investment in the expansion and renovation of our airport. Boss, the investment managers at Morgan Chase also said the same thing, and they were even more ruthless. They said if you can't get it done within 5 minutes, they will do it. They are going to drive up international oil prices, and our operating expenses this month will double. Several correspondents reported anxiously. The duty manager's face was also covered with sweat. He wiped the sweat off his face desperately while speaking angrily. These guys crazy? We can't arrange for them to take off, but we can't arrange for them to land over there. What's flying in the sky are airplanes, not taxis. We can't let all the large passenger planes that have already taken off land in the farmland of the Central Agricultural State in advance. What the hell is this about driving up international oil prices? Are they crazy? In the past 10 minutes, both his personal phone and the phone in his duty office had been completely bombarded with calls. Corporate executives, senators, and congressmen at all levels, whom he had never heard of, or even met. Many people called him and asked him to help arrange a certain plane to take off in advance. At first he mistakenly thought that there might be an emergency somewhere, but as time went by, he increasingly felt that something was wrong. In addition to local celebrities in New York State, there were also airport executives from Washington DC, London and many European cities. They also called one after another, but of course they would not ask for their help in taking off the plane. Instead, they asked for a runway to land their planes, which means the Atlantic Ocean. Countless luxurious private jets, carrying almost all of the world's richest 1%, are flying towards him quickly. Of course, this is definitely not the final destination. The final destination is the same as those who asked me to help take off the plane. He had also heard some legends about Santa Clara County, California, and his son had also told him some stories about the place. Computers, high technology, and the global internet are the most frequently mentioned terms, but middle-class people like him who grew up in America's golden generation are mostly not interested in these things. In his impression, it was more likely that there was a group of young people there, wearing plaid shirts, and with worrying hair volume at a young age. Sitting in front of the computer screen every day, tapping away on the keyboard. He never believed that such work could change the world. To this day, the feeling is so strong that he may not be able to guarantee changing the world. But what he could guarantee now was that the money from the entire Western world was pouring into that small place like a storm. Supervisor's phone call. Just as he was thinking, a communicator's voice sounded behind him. Didn't I tell you that I won't answer anyone's calls right now? Are you asking me to answer this call so that I can leave early and give you a vacant position? The duty manager turned angrily and looked at the communicator. The communicator was startled, but he did not put down the receiver. He looked at his leader helplessly. Boss, you have to answer this call. We can't afford to offend the person on the other end of the phone. Can't afford to offend? The on-duty steward was almost laughing out of anger. Just within the past minute, we rejected 13 congressmen, with 2 federal senators and numerous calls from financial tycoons. Is there anyone in the United States that we can't afford to offend? Could it be possible that the person on the other end of the line is the President of the United States? That's right. It's a call from the White House. The operator was almost crying, listening to the urging of the familiar voice on the other end of the phone. He was about to kneel down to the supervisor in front of him, and the on-duty manager was also in a state of complete confusion at this moment. He stretched out his hand and pointed at the other person with trembling hands. What did you say? A call from the White House. That's right, the communicator replied, crying, and if I heard it correctly, it should be the president's voice, and he has already started cursing. The duty manager felt like his brain was about to crash, as he was an ordinary person who had worked in the American aviation industry for more than 10 years, and finally got a small supervisor position. He had never thought that one day he would receive a call from the president, and now he finally figured it out. Why didn't any of the company's top executives show up at such a tense time? It's obvious that they want to take the blame. No matter what he does now, whichever plane he allows to take off first, he will inevitably offend a large group of people later. It looks like this job is completely done today. After figuring this out, the duty steward, who was already disheartened, was about to take the phone from the communicator. At this time, another classmate also ran over with a telephone in his hand, stumbling over and saying, while gasping for breath, Bill Clinton, the governor of Arkansas, also called and said his plane was already being refueled. Bill Clinton, why does this name sound so familiar? The duty steward looked puzzled. Of course I'm familiar with it, boss. Have you forgotten what day it is today? This is the final stage of the presidential election. The ballots will be counted on November 11th, so the president and the Democratic presidential candidate will come to New York State at the same time. This is an important swing state, and they just collided today. Does any one of you carry a gun? The duty steward asked calmly. What? The 2 communicators asked at the same time in confusion. Let me ask you too. Do you have a gun? Or go down and borrow one from the security guard. This is no longer a work issue. 1. who is the current president and one who, according to the polls and my own voting, is likely to be the next president, calling me at the same time and asking me to help one of them. Is it a choice between making me choose or killing me? If that's the case, I can't do it on my own. The duty steward had completely lost all hope in life. Chapter 280 Final Decision, and one qualified American citizen, Mr. Diggory. When the duty steward was about to commit suicide, everyone in the tower looked troubled and began to think about the next stage of their life and career planning point. Suddenly, the noisy telephone ringing disappeared at the same time, and the whole room became unusually quiet. All the communicators were stunned and began to frantically check the telephone lines and computer systems. You should know that Kennedy International Airport is now in an overloaded state, with dozens of planes requesting to take off or land at all times at this time. If all communications are suddenly lost and an accident occurs, it will no longer be a matter of career planning for the next stage. There is a high chance that everyone present will go to jail. Just when everyone was getting nervous, a young man's voice came from the telephone receivers held by the two communicators beside the duty manager at the same time. Please assist in flying Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton to California, who is a guest of our company. As soon as he finished speaking, all systems and telephone lines were restored at the same time, and the pilot's urgent calls continued. The sound of telephones ringing one after another once again filled the entire building. What do we do now, boss? We have to decide immediately. If this is just a boring cyber attack, which one should I choose, boss? If we delay any further, we'll be in big trouble. The two operators held the receivers tightly with their hands and looked anxiously at their supervisors. The steward on duty on the other side first laughed strangely and then suddenly seemed like a different person. The two communicators beside him gave the order calmly. Both of you take your hands off the phone at the same time to make sure both sides can hear what I'm going to say next. What? You're crazy. Once you make a decision and choose to help one side, it's good for the other side to hear it. We can't let it go. The two communicators were already extremely panicked at this time. One had a confused look on his face, and the other was crying and shouting. But the steward on duty remained calm and shouted loudly, "If you want to continue to mix, then listen to me. Let go and don't hang up the phone, and move the microphone closer to ensure that both sides can hear me." The two correspondents had no other choice at this point. Seeing that the other party was full of confidence, they had no choice but to join in the gamble. Both people opened their palms holding the microphones at the same time and placed the two microphones on both sides of the supervisor's mouth. "Mr. Bill Clinton, we have just received accurate information about the company that is holding a press conference in California. It seems that you have been invited to the press conference. You gave us the notice an hour ago. The other party just called to urge us. Are you ready for to key off?" The duty manager tried hard to control his emotions and make his words sound more like a normal announcement. After he finished speaking, there was silence for about a minute from the two microphones that had been noisy, and then a warm thank you was heard. "Thank you for your service. The plane is ready to take off." Beep. Beep. A word of thanks and a dull sound of electricity. No accusations or cursing, and no threats. It was not until the two communicators returned the microphones to their places that the duty manager sat back in his chair with a sense of relief. The wet back of his shirt showed how nervous he was at the time. He spoke loudly. As soon as he sat down, all communication equipment in the tower will have backup recordings. As long as the communication equipment here is used, there will definitely be recordings left behind. Even if you two die here today, you must find the young man's voice for me. Otherwise, you should be prepared to be sent to an African company. After saying this, he looked at the other correspondents working and spoke sincerely. "If anyone asks you about what happened today, you must answer truthfully. The only thing that can protect us is the truth. Don't go out drunk and brag. I don't want to see some of you committed suicide in his own garage for unknown reasons." After saying these words, he slowly took out a cigarette from his pocket, then stood up and turned off the fire alarm system next to him. In the tower, where smoking is strictly prohibited, he began to puff out a cigarette and looked through the glass in front of him at a plane taking off on the runway. "I hope my choice today is not wrong." In Santa Clara County, California, backstage at a press conference, Karl, Cedric and the other two were lying comfortably on the sofa. The FBI agents who were enjoying their magic sleep beside him had long since disappeared without a trace. As soon as Karl returned to the backstage, he immediately lifted the spell from them. At the beginning, as soon as these young men woke up, they drew their guns and aimed at the trio. At a critical moment like this, Karl originally wanted to act cool and be like a villain in a movie. He deliberately teased these federal agents. But before he could say anything, the full Cedric raised his hands in the air. He squatted down slowly and finally lay on the ground with his hands on his head. The movements were so standard and the actions were so swift that even the federal agents who had been dealing with criminals for years were stunned. In the end, it was Kevin Lestrange who reacted first and dialed a life number directly. Then hand the phone to the captain of the federal agents. "Yes, Governor. We are here right now. We will definitely cooperate with Mr. Hohenzollern. Please rest assured that we will maintain order at the scene. No problem. I guarantee you'll complete the task." The disdainful expression did not last for a few seconds. After hearing the voice on the other end of the phone, there was no hesitation. The federal agent who was ordered to arrest the criminal transformed himself on the spot and became the temporary security guard for the press conference. They are still maintaining order in front of the stage. Please do not crowd or scramble. Please line up and come forward one by one to experience it. After the experience, the executives will get the sample machine, but no one is allowed to take the sample machine away from the site before then. I'm talking to you. If you cut in line again, your experience will be cancelled. The captain's roar reached the backstage through the wall, and the impatience and irritability in his words could be heard. You can imagine how popular the front desk is right now. Carol, who was sitting on the sofa, couldn't help but tease when he heard the voice. "Mr. Diggory, you are still sitting on the sofa. I thought you were so scared by the roar that you squatted on the ground. You really embarrassed us just now. Where did you learn all that knowledge as an ordinary person who grew up in the United States? I have to admit that at least, when it comes to dealing with the police, you are already a qualified American." Chapter 281. Cedric is bullied again. Faced with Karl's cheesing, Cedric was really speechless. When he was at Hogwarts before, he had been observing the way Kevin Lestrange did things and found that he liked to conduct a detailed investigation before doing anything. And he wanted to make detailed classifications, so he squeezed out several nights before coming to the United States. Find out what you need to know about traveling to the United States by all means. As a result, whether the information was collected from Europe or the UK, it would be marked with eye-catching red notes. When you encounter the police in the United States, you must follow their instructions and try to appear as non-aggressive as possible. In particular, a British man who had been shot in the United States described in detail in his autobiography what actions to take when encountering the police. The sales of that autobiography were very low, and he even used up his own personal stash to get a copy. All the important information in the book was deeply engraved in my mind, to the point that it became a conditioned reflex. I thought that, by collecting information so carefully, I could appear more professional and save Karl from having to hang around that annoying guy every day. I didn't expect to make such a fool of myself today. The more I think about it, the angrier I get. Cedric became angrier and sadder the more he thought about it. He turned his back to the two people beside him and buried his head in the gap of the sofa like an Australian sloth. Only the back is left to Karl and Kevin Lestrange. Looking at each other's backs, Karl and Kevin Lestrange were also confused, but they didn't think much about it. Kevin Lestrange spoke first. New York State has received information that Mr. Clinton's plane has taken off, but it will take at least 5 hours. You sure you want to wait until the other party arrives? It's already 4 p.m. Of course, Karl said calmly. He is very important if we want to complete our subsequent operations. It is obviously impossible without the cooperation of someone from the government, and the other party must be prominent enough to suppress all investigations. I don't think there would be any other choice for such a person, except the President of the United States. But he's not the President of the United States yet, is he? Kevin Lestrange raised his doubts. Can you predict the future? Once we make the wrong bet, it will be difficult to realize our subsequent plans. Helping The current president seek re-election is a safer option from any perspective, but he's already the president, isn't he? Karl gave a meaningful smile. What do you mean? He has now had the greatest achievement of his life, and he has the next 4 years of his term as the current president. The most important thing is to maintain the consistency of his policies. To put it more simply, his piece of the pie has already been divided up. Even if we intervene now, we won't be able to get the share we want. Adding icing on the cake is never as good as helping someone in need. We have a very big appetite. We only want to help a person get elected as the President of the United States, not to be re-elected as the President of the United States. We may get what we want, and we have invested a lot in him. It's time to close the net. Is that so? Kevin Lestrange nodded silently. It seems that I still haven't considered some details clearly. There are many things you haven't thought through. Cedric, with his back to the two of them, listened to the conversation behind him. He felt very unhappy and touched his rumbling stomach, muttering quietly, "Shouldn't you fill your stomach first?" Which is what you should be thinking about the most. The press conference lasted 5 or 6 hours. If I had known this morning, I would have hidden a few small cakes. Don't disturb. Kevin Lestrange looked at Cedric angrily. The two of them were discussing important issues here. But this loser was only thinking about eating. He was about to scold him, but Carol covered his mouth. "Are you hungry, Mr. Lestrange?" Carol suddenly asked out of the blue. With his mouth covered, Lestrange wanted to reply that he was not hungry, but he did not expect that the other party had no intention of removing the hand covering his mouth. He continued to talk to himself. "It seems you are hungry too. What should we eat? I heard that the Mexican food here is very good. Shredded beef in a corn tortilla with a bright red jalapeno sauce. Don't forget the corn chips, grilled with double cheese. The aroma of corn goes well with the melted cheese. It's crispy and can be pulled into a silky texture when you bite it. It's delicious just thinking about it." While speaking, Karl kept giving Lestrange looks, and he quickly understood the other party's intention. So after the other party moved his hand away, he echoed, "And don't forget dessert. The tortillas, deep fried pastry with icing, sugar and cinnamon, really have a special flavor. Mexican ice cream pie, tres leches cake, red bean cake, and the most classic Mexican bagels. Let's go and have a good taste to soothe our hard-working bodies." After saying that, he gave Karl a look, and the other party took out his magic wand, waved it lightly, and the small coffee table beside him turned into 2 pairs of small leather shoes. He began to imitate the footsteps of 2 people, walking slowly but rhythmically towards the door as the footsteps became farther and farther away. Cedric, who had been pretending to be an ostrich, finally made some movement, and turned around abruptly. He yelled loudly, "You 2 bastards teamed up to bully me again." However, he didn't expect that when he opened his eyes after the roar, he saw Karl and Kevin Lestrange standing in front of him with their hands crossed. With an uncontrollable smile on his face, Cedric was almost petrified. Just as he was about to bury his head back in the sofa, Carol grabbed his face and lifted it up forcefully. "It hurts. It hurts. It hurts." Cedric begged for mercy frantically, but Karl just snorted coldly and let go of the fingers that were pinching the other's face. Then he threw a laptop directly into the other person's arms. "Eat, eat, eat. Just think about eating. Today is a very important and critical moment. Don't think about letting me down." "Who taught you to avoid trouble when you encounter it? I don't want my friend to be an ostrich tortoise who only knows how to bury his head. If you keep making such a fuss, I'll keep you out of bed for a few days. Go get to work." With his left cheek pinched red and forced to work overtime, Cedric could only walk aside with his laptop in frustration. But even so, he still muttered softly, "But I'm really hungry. Can't I go out and buy something to eat?" "Your current task is to work." Karl's cold voice came, along with the sound of cutting ingredients. "Don't even think about getting out. You 2 are the protagonists of the next press conference, so let me do it." Chapter 280. To Karl as a human being. As soon as he finished speaking, Karl took out a full set of kitchen equipment from his ring, and in an instant, he turned the simple backstage into a fully equipped modern kitchen. He combed his long golden hair back into a slicked back bun, and wore a white chef's robe. Holding the mirrored chef's knife that shines with cold light, he processes a stone on the chopping board. Dear customers, today we have the appetizer of Spanish-style pear and ham salad, and the main course is red wine low-temperature beef, Malignant style, steak and the chef's secret homemade foie gras. Needless to say, desserts are great. Please work hard and wait patiently for a while. After explaining today's dishes to his customers, Karl entered cooking mode. He first arranged the prosciutto slices into a rose shape, tossed the pear and lettuce in the dressing, and sprinkled them with goat cheese and black pepper. Finally, they are served together in an exquisite plating. Then he began to marinate the fine beef with olive oil, garlic and other seasonings. The beef is then roasted to bring out its original flavor. This low temperature slow cooking method ensures the tenderness of the meat and retains the gravy. You can feel the deliciousness of beef and the aroma of red wine in every bite. As the cooking progressed, the aroma gradually filled the entire backstage, making Cedric completely distracted from his work. Her eyes kept switching between her computer screen and Karl, who was cooking. Be serious, Kevin Lestrange reminded him. He handed a thin piece of paper to the other party and pointed at the simple words on it. Explain the technical details in front of everyone. From a technical point of view, I definitely believe you, but from a personal point of view, I don't think you can do this speech well, so I'll give you a brief list of details you need to pay attention to, and the most commonly used speech routines. I believe that with your IQ, you can complete the next task well by following the steps. What do you mean? Cedric was very dissatisfied when he heard this, but he did not hand the note back. Instead, he spoke indignantly while carefully checking the contents above. Don't think you're the only one who can do complex work. I'm not the same person I used to be. I have a strong learning ability. Besides, why do you want to help me? It seems that there is no such deep friendship between us, right? You think too much. Looking at the other party's little tricks, Kevin Lestrange just smiled contemptuously and did not expose it. I'm only doing this to ensure that the work can be completed smoothly. It has nothing to do with you, a silly winter melon. I don't want our 1 month's hard work to go to waste because of you. Cedric was very angry, but he couldn't think of any reason to refute the other party, so he could only silently write down what was written on the paper, while continuing to secretly glance at Karl, who was still cooking. He had already finished the first dish, low temperature beef in red wine. While making homemade foie gras, he first used a sharp kitchen knife to slowly cut the huge white brown foie gras. It is then slowly cut into thin slices and then pan fried. This classic French delicacy requires precise control of the heat and cooking time. The bacon is fried until crispy and the foie gras is crispy on the outside while remaining juicy on the inside. This contrast in taste brings a rich layered taste. Karl's movements were skillful and graceful, but he placed the kitchen in the dark backstage with only a dim light above his head. Under the flickering light, that beautiful face with a wicked smile looked a little creepy. And as the other party finishes frying the foie gras, start adding the appropriate amount of wine and broth, and the moment the bright red wine is poured into the soup pot, a few drops of wine splashed on his face, making the inexplicable feeling of fear even stronger, especially when Karl caught Cedric peeking at him. He deliberately gave a strange smile. At that moment, Cedric felt his hair stand on end. He couldn't help but move a little in the direction of Kevin Lestrange. I think the material is written simply enough. Is there anything you don't understand? Kevin Lestrange, who felt someone approaching, looked at Cedric with confusion. Cedric covered his face with his laptop and secretly pointed his finger in Karl's direction. I find it very strange. I always feel that when Karl is cooking foie gras, my liver is inexplicably hurting, and there's always a weird feeling there. Am I hallucinating? What? Hallucination? Kevin Lestrange felt puzzled, but he also looked in the direction of Cedric's finger. As soon as I looked over, I heard a slight crispy sound of frying, and Karl put in a piece of premium beef that had been marinated and grilled point tight into a cylinder with silk thread, add garlic, bay leaves and other spices, and fry it slowly in a frying pan with olive oil point. The aroma of spices instantly filled the entire backstage. But the other two were looking at the beef rolling in the pan. I always feel a little pain in my arm, and the feeling is so strong. The two of them completely forgot about their work, and just stood there in a daze. When they came to their senses, and looked back, Karl's figure had long disappeared. Where are the people? I knew there was something wrong. There must be some weird magic here. Kevin Lestrange asked a soul-searching question, and Cedric was almost crying. What? Strange magic? Where has anyone gone? What are you two thinking about? A calm voice sounded beside the two of them. At this time, the two of them were hugging each other tightly, and they mechanically turned their heads to look at the source of the voice. All they saw was Karl standing next to them, with that weird smile on his face and a sharp kitchen knife in his hand. The blade that was flashing with cold light, as well as the face and the white chef's uniform, were all covered with red blood stains. Melons. Stockings. Save me. My light, please protect me. The two of them let out earth-shaking shouts at the same time, until two beams of magic light completely sealed their mouths. Don't yell. What's wrong with you two? I was just about to open a bottle of red wine to celebrate. I didn't expect to use too much force with the kitchen knife, and the wine bottle burst and splashed all over me. I just wanted to come and inform you two that the meal is ready. What was that look you two were wearing just now? Don't tell me you two wizards are actually afraid of ghosts. As he spoke, he slowly sat down on the sofa next to the two of them, crossed his legs, and played with the sharp kitchen knife in his hand. He stared at the two people in front of him with hawk-like eyes, then slammed the kitchen knife heavily on the table. I will remove the silencing spell on both of you, and explain why you were howling just now. If the reason is really that absurd, then I will cook the two of you into one dish. Chapter 283 Kevin Lestrange and -039 S questions. That is to say, you are inexplicably scared when you see me cooking, and you think that what I cook is not ordinary ingredients. It's because we're cooking the corpses of our own kind, so you're scared. It really opens my eyes. Mr. Cedric, you are always so imaginative. Karl's white fingers stroked the tip of the knife, with a fickle smile on his face. Opposite him, Cedric was like a primary school student who had done something wrong, with his hands on his knees, his head lowered, and remained silent. He didn't know why he had such strange thoughts. He just felt that he seemed to have seen that scene somewhere. Raise your head. Karl's voice came again. I really didn't mean it. I told you to hold your head up. Karl's voice became more severe. Cedric had no choice but to look up silently, only to see the other party throwing a novel on the table. The name of the novel is Red Dragon, a classic horror novel completed in 1981. I found this next to your bed before I left Hogwarts. I wanted to test it out, as I expected. You are indeed extraordinary, Mr. Diggory. Your pumpkin brain has an extraordinary memory. Whether you remember it consciously or unconsciously, anything that sticks in your mind will be recorded in your brain. Just now I was imitating the way the protagonist in the novel dressed and cooked, so I triggered this memory of yours. I was scared to death. Cedric was relieved. I thought I was possessed by some horrible magic, but this is what it is. Now that the misunderstanding has been resolved, let's eat. After saying that, Cedric immediately stretched out his hand towards the exquisite and delicious dish in front of him, but as soon as his hand stretched out, he was hit hard by Carol. He looked at Cedric oddly. Since you have such a great memory, I would like to ask Mr. Diggory why I gave you the task. You always use excuses like you forgot or can't remember clearly to evade me. Can you explain it? This Cedric broke out in a cold sweat and looked at Kevin Lestrange beside him. I noticed that there wasn't a trace of fear on the other person's face at this moment. He just looked absent-minded, waiting to watch the show. It was not until this moment that he finally realized that he had been tricked by these two guys again. filled with grief and anger. He could only look at Cole with pitiful eyes. He did this, not only to pretend to be pitiful, but also because he really had something difficult to say, and he really wanted to tell the other person. I don't know why, but I always forget a lot of things when I'm with you. Don't look at me like that. Karl put away the weird smile on his face and returned to his usual gentle smile. I didn't do this to plot against you, and you don't have anything to plot against. I just want to stop your excuse for being lazy. You have already remembered the help Mr. Lestrange gave you when it's your turn to perform at the press conference. Don't let me down again. Now, let's eat. You're not going to punish me? Cedric asked in surprise. You did a great job. Why should I punish you? Karl responded calmly and began to serve his two customers like a waiter. He himself had a red wine cooked low temperature beef, and needless to say, Kevin Lestrange, the French foie gras was prepared for him. As for Cedric, he had a large steak Parligny style served with a Spanish style pear and ham salad. The portion was enough for 3 people, and under the temptation of delicious food, Cedric did not ask any more questions. The sky is big, the earth is big, and eating is the biggest. This is the soul of Hufflepuff House. After a quick sweep, the dishes that had been painstakingly prepared for half an hour were reduced to a pile of dirty plates. Karl snapped his fingers, and the messy table and the modern kitchen disappeared without a trace in a burst of white fluorescent light. He himself was shaking a glass of mulled wine and pointing toward the stage in trance. Well, now that you have eaten and drunk enough, Mr. Cedric, go and show off your technical achievements. The rest of the stage is yours. But Cedric suddenly became nervous when he heard this. He was not a very flamboyant and competitive person. Even though his father promotes his outstanding son to his colleagues every day, he himself does not like it. Not to mention giving a speech in front of a group of muggles. He rarely spoke in public at school. How could he not be nervous when the time came? It's nothing. Karl stood up and walked towards Cedric, touching his big head and speaking gently. Just treat those guys under the stage as pumpkin heads. They are not as smart as you today anyway. You have done what they only dreamed of, but could not do. You are much smarter and better than them. Don't pay attention to their problems. Just show them that you are enough. This comfort was so gentle that Cedric was a little uncomfortable with it. He looked at Karl in surprise. I wanted to respond to the other party's kindness, but just as I was about to open my mouth, I found that a wicked smile suddenly appeared on that gentle face. Then he was kicked in the buttocks. Go ahead, Pikachu. Show yourself to those losers and humiliate them with your skills. You bullied me, Karl, again. After a desperate cry, Cedric looked up again. He was already standing in the center of the stage, and the hundreds of MacBook Air 1000 demo prototypes on the stage had disappeared without a trace. The entire stage had been completely cleared, and several huge titles were written on the huge screen behind him. Milligrams. System Software Developer Technology Conference. As soon as the audience saw Cedric come on stage, they all stood up and applauded enthusiastically. At this moment, there was a fanatical light flashing in the eyes of these people who are most knowledgeable about computer technology in the world. It was a fanaticism similar to that of religion. It was as if the person in front of him was the Silver Messiah of the electronic software field. Why are you so nice to him? Of the 2 people secretly observing from behind the stage, Karen Lestrange was the first to ask a question. Everything he has is guided by you. You taught him the knowledge that everyone dreams of. I gave him wealth that many people could not imagine. What I cannot believe is that you have such patience with him. You allow him to grow up slowly beside you, gaining a better understanding of reality and improving his self-confidence. You are almost willing to lead him step by step. May I ask why? Mr. Hohenzollern, your question is very interesting, but unfortunately there is no answer, or it should be said that there is no need for an answer. Chapter 284. He has it. I wanted to. But, obviously, this answer did not satisfy Kevin Lestrange, and he was about to continue asking. But his lips were sealed with a finger. Shh, don't talk. Now it's time for Mr. Diggory. Karl looked at the other person with a smile. He pressed the other person's mouth with his left fingers and put his right index finger on his own lips through the gap in the back row. He looked at Cedric on the stage with a look of anticipation and pride in his eyes. Kevin Lestrange did not ask any further questions, perhaps because he thought there was no point in continuing like this. In fact, he didn't understand why he asked such a question, since he had clearly accepted an undercover mission. You just need to gain the trust of the person in front of you and behave professionally and irreplaceably. But when the person in front of me did such an illogical thing to that big-headed fool, a sense of inexplicable sadness always arose in my heart. This feeling is extremely strong and always makes him do some irrational behaviors on the other side of the stage. Cedric looked at the group of people in the audience, who were all wearing plaid shirts and had fanatical expressions on their faces. The middle-aged man of all ages with worrying hair volume was panicking and kept muttering to himself, "They're all pumpkin heads, they're all pumpkin heads, they're all pumpkin heads." As the self-hypnosis continued to deepen, the effects gradually emerged, and a group of technical programmers wearing colorful shirts were in the audience. They turned into vegetables and fruits of different colors, with shiny and smooth eggs on their heads, sparkling under the light. Seeing this strange sight, Cedric almost couldn't help laughing. This made Kevin Lestrange in the backstage look confused. What is he laughing at? Why hasn't he started his speech yet? Although he has 4 hours to spare, the content he needs to cover is very detailed. How can he still laugh so happily at such a tense moment? If I'm not mistaken, Ziana Long, he only makes that sound when he's eating. I'm not sure either. Karl looked a little embarrassed. Could it be that I put too much potion in the steak? That shouldn't be the case. I strictly followed the advice given by Professor Snape. If it's Professor Snape, then there shouldn't be a problem. Upon hearing Professor Snape's name, Kevin Lestrange immediately expressed his approval. But he quickly came to his senses, staring at Carol with wide eyes. "You put potions in the food we ate. No wonder you gave him those strange verbal hints. You hypnotized him with a potion, Mr. Hohenzollern. You really opened my eyes." "What are you talking about? What are you talking about?" Karl turned his head away awkwardly, but still remained stubborn. "I do all this for your own good. Besides, didn't I make foie gras for you? This is a custom dish. Even that guy couldn't get this kind of service. Then I really want to thank you for letting me go." Kevin Lestrange started to speak in a sarcastic tone, but it was just talk, and I didn't know why I heard the other party say it. Even that guy can't enjoy this kind of service. When he heard this sentence, an inexplicable sense of satisfaction rose in his heart. The previous feeling of grievance and pain disappeared without a trace, and a feeling of comfort spread throughout the body. "I can help you keep this secret." Just when Cole was about to ask the other party to help him keep it secret, Kevin Lestrange suddenly spoke first. "But I want to get." "No problem." Karl agreed without hesitation. "When the money is divided in the end, I can give you an extra 10% from my share." "I don't want it," Kevin Lestrange said coldly. "It can't be any more. 10% is already a lot." "Don't." When he heard the other party refuse, Karl subconsciously thought that the other party felt that 10% was not enough, but he soon reacted. He looked at the other person in disbelief and asked tentatively, "What do you want? Is what you just wanted to express what I think it is now?" Kevin Lestrange looked at the unbelievable expression on Karl's face and became furious. He spoke in a sarcastic tone. "Do you think I'm a greedy person? It's just like what you think in your heart. I don't want an extra share. I just want it in the left drawer of your desk after this is over. You can also put down 8 lemon citrus flavored cupcakes every day. This is what I want." "Why?" Karl felt a chill running through his body and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. "What's going on? Aren't you French? How can you have such a strange idea?" Just as he was daydreaming, Kevin Lestrange suddenly spoke angrily. "There's no reason. I need to be treated fairly. No matter what, I need to be treated fairly. I am equally entitled to anything that idiot has." Looking at the 11-year-old boy in front of me, who was disguised by magic, his face became round. Because of anger, Karl seemed to have the illusion that his Hogwarts career had inevitably gone astray point after he inexplicably got a golden retriever that knew nothing and was incredibly stupid point. Another Maine Coon cat, who is extremely arrogant and petty, was forced into my life by some old bastard point. Life is full of surprises and accidents, but if he thought about it carefully, this was indeed much cheaper. So after a brief thought, he agreed, but still gave a warning. I can agree to your condition, but I want to advise you that these are 8 high-calorie cakes. With your current appetite, you can't finish it at all. Can you make a few less? No. Kevin Lestrange refused without hesitation. His attitude was unprecedentedly firm point, but after a brief thought, he suddenly spoke in a proud tone. It is indeed a bad character to waste food. I'm not like that glutton who only cares about eating. How about this? You make each small cake smaller, about the same size as a macaron. This way, there will be no waste, and I can also enjoy it while working at night without feeling too burdened. But the number must not be less, at least not less than his. Otherwise, Kevin Lestrange stared at Karl and made a serious, threatening expression point, but he forgot that an 11-year-old boy, no matter how fierce he pretended to be, would only appear overly cute in the eyes of others. Seeing this scene, Karl could only try hard to hold back his laughter and pretend to be serious. Of course, no problem. I agree to your condition. After all, you are the main force of our team in the upcoming work. This sentence was just the right amount of flattery, making Kevin Lestrange feel as refreshed as if he had drunk a glass of ice cola in the middle of summer. So he continued to look at the stage and asked casually, by the way, you haven't told me the final goal yet. How many US dollars are we going to cash out this time? Not much, just 505 million. This is completely meaningless to you. You don't make more than that in an hour now. Kevin Lestrange's face was full of confusion, while Karl turned to look at the little boy in front of him. He said, shaking his finger, it's not 500 million, it's billion. Chapter 285 Small Goals and Technical Conference. 500 billion. Are you kidding? Kevin Lestrange couldn't believe the number he heard. No, as of now, the world's richest man's assets are only 580 billion, and his assets are mainly company stocks. According to the plan you mentioned before, what you need is funds that can be put into your personal account, even in the current capital market. A cash flow of 500 billion US dollars is also a capital that cannot be underestimated. Is this number a bit exaggerated? Exaggerated, very exaggerated. Karl echoed with an exaggerated expression on his face. The finger is pointing towards the stage. Of course I know this number is extremely exaggerated, but I must have this wealth. As to why, I will tell you to later, but for now let's turn our attention to our current protagonist. After saying that, he began to stare intently at Cedric on the stage. On the stage, Cedric was getting into the groove, suddenly laughing like a fool and beginning to transform into a professional technical worker. He began by introducing to the people present the computer systems and software he had created. As I just said, the high performance of the Magic 1000 CPU combined with the huge productivity improvement brought by the MacBook Air 1000. Our family will create a world that we never dared to imagine before, and what needs to be emphasized is the processing system of this new personal computer. After that, Cedric began to operate the laptop in front of him, his fingers tapping lightly on the keyboard. Under his operation, the content on the rectangular screen behind him began to change, and a complex computer system demonstration screen appeared behind him. This is the point I need to emphasize now. Dear guests and colleagues, please allow me to introduce it to you. Our company's latest system in the software field, X1000, is a collection of the most cutting-edge network technology, innovative products with open source concepts and the most powerful hardware. Just like the demonstration I just showed, its page is more concise. The speed of response far exceeds any existing system. How exactly it implements these functions is a form of code that we have not seen at all, and the computer disk space required by this system seems to be far beyond our imagination. How can we achieve this? During Cedric's explanation. Many senior experts raised their questions faced with these problems. Cedric's single core brain certainly couldn't handle it, so he chose to follow the advice written on the paper by the annoying guy. They chose to completely avoid talking about problems that they could not handle, and directly started discussing technical details such as the core architecture of the system. Your question is very meaningful, but I'm only responsible for the software aspect. As for the hardware and other supporting industrial chains, these questions will be answered after the mysterious VIP, Mr. Hohenzollern, the founder and chairman of our company, finishes his speech. We will explain this to you in detail in the next few days. Let's continue to look at the core architectural issues of the system. After that, the screen behind Cedric changed again, and an extremely complex mind map appeared behind him. At the same time, there are all kinds of strange and never heard of network concepts. The system is designed based on a microservice architecture and uses containerized deployment to ensure high availability and scalability of the system. At the same time, we introduced the service mesh technology to achieve efficient communication between services through intelligent routing and load balancing. In addition, we have integrated edge computing capabilities to move data processing and storage closer to the data source, significantly reducing latency and increasing processing speed. Of course, there is also the issue of safety that everyone present is most concerned about. Cedric changed the display on the screen behind him again. At this moment, he looked more like a professor in a university. Moreover, the lecture was so fast that some students just lowered their heads to pick up a pen and waited for him to look up again. The content on the blackboard had become extremely unfamiliar, and even many reporters had entered a frenzy state at this time. The fingers that pressed the shutter button had double images, and some of them were very clear that the photos they took now might very likely change their lives in the future. Many of the corporate executives and technical managers present here have already begun to calculate how much money they would have to spend to get the information from these reporters. When you buy pictures that you just couldn't even remember, you should know that the technical information revealed in those pictures is likely to be priceless. In terms of data security, Zwiin Cloud Chain uses advanced encryption technology and distributed ledger technology, such as blockchain, to ensure the integrity and immutability of data. We also implement end-to-end encrypted communication to ensure the privacy and security of user data. I know some of you may not fully understand some of these concepts, but that's okay. As I just said, in the next few days, you will get enough detailed information and participate deeply in the development of the system. Cedric was now completely into the state, performing very easily, but it was different from what everyone present had imagined. The other party was not like the consuls in ancient Rome or Greece, who gave speeches in the square and enjoyed the admiring gazes of the crowd. In fact, at this moment, he completely treated the people in the audience as some strange flowers and plants, just like he usually does in the common room and dormitory. When watering the flowers and plants, he always complains to the plants. Most of the time it was about Karl, but of course there was also that annoying guy. But no matter what, after listening to the last sentence of the other party's speech, the others present, especially the super hackers, they were already extremely excited and ignored the murderous looks of the federal agents around them. They couldn't wait to stand up one by one and ask loudly. That is to say, this system is completely open source, and everyone can use this system to create their own software. What is the charging ratio? Can individual users also use it? Of course. Cedric nodded without hesitation. Next, I want to emphasize the importance of open source software. The X1000 system not only supports the development of the open source community, but also some of its components are built on open source projects. Our company also believes that open source is an important driving force for technological innovation. By collaborating with developers around the world, we can continuously optimize system performance. It improves safety, while also promoting the sharing of technology and the advancement of the industry. No, this will threaten national security. How can you guarantee that all software developers have good intentions after open source software is released? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel. Mundo fanfic novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 286, The Bullied Little Pumpkin. This issue is the same as the industrial chain I emphasized before, and will be explained to you in detail in the subsequent public information. Please allow me to finish my speech. In addition to the entire system, my company has another most important future plan. Cedric continued to use his skills, preparing to avoid the question he didn't know how to answer. Please don't avoid the question. But this time he obviously did not succeed, as the technical executive who had just asked the question still asked aggressively. The most important thing about a computer operating system is security. If even this cannot be guaranteed, then no matter how advanced it is meaningless. Besides, my question is not difficult to answer. I need an accurate answer now. Cedric panicked. The sudden loss of rhythm awakened the tension in his heart. Even worse is after this green eggplant coffee stewed egg, bald middle-aged black man in a green shirt. The other tomatoes and pumpkins also began to rebel, standing up one after another and demanding answers. Yes, safety is the top priority. If this system is really so smooth, once it starts to be used on a large scale, ensuring its safety will be the most important link. If we can't even solve the system's security problem, then everything that comes after that is just an illusion. We need a plan that is both completely reasonable and detailed and appropriate to deal with the safety issues. The series of questions were like a bombardment, directly making Cedric's single core brain crash. Feeling dizzy, he could only look at the people in the audience in panic. I was so nervous, but didn't know what to do. I was so anxious that tears were about to fall. They are not here to ask questions at all. Your system is affecting their business. Backstage, Kevin Lestrange pointed out the problem directly. Looking at the anxious and helpless idiot on the stage, he felt a little secretly happy in his heart, but at the same time he was analyzing the problem very seriously. After thinking for a moment, he turned to look at Karl beside him. I think that should be. Before he could finish his words, a golden whirlwind swept past his eyes, and Karl was already standing on the stage without him noticing. With a heavy face and cold eyes, as if he was looking at a corpse, he stared at the technical executives who stood up to ask questions. The open source system is just to ensure innovation. After all, even if it is the most advanced company in the world, there are thousands of the world's most advanced engineers. You will never be able to match the billions of people who will use the internet in the future. Don't try to teach your users how to use your products. Instead, we should listen to their opinions. We are service providers, not the kings of cyberspace. That's right. We support you. That is, users want to do something, but this is not allowed, and that is not allowed. They make money by relying on their monopoly position and squeeze the toothpaste every year. This is what is called a technology company. You are just afraid of losing your right to speak. What national security bullshit. If dogs can talk someday, will you cut off their tongues too? Karl's words immediately resonated with many people at the scene, most of whom were representatives from various forums, or they could be representatives of famous internet organizations, who represent the vast majority of ordinary computer users. They truly understood what Karl had just said. They were all outraged, and stood up, and applauded wildly. The situation was reversed in an instant, but you can't avoid the problem. Even though public opinion was no longer on his side, the middle-aged black technology executive was still unwilling to give up. Emphasized again, since this is a technical conference, we must answer technical questions. What methods do you plan to use to ensure it? After you open source this system, you can guarantee the security of all software developers. Are they all well-intentioned? That's, of course, not guaranteed. Karl stared at the guy in front of him with a relaxed tone and calm eyes, but deep in those calm eyes, there was an unspeakable ferocity, as if saying, you are ready to die. Since it can't be guaranteed, how can you prove its safety? When I heard the other party say it couldn't be guaranteed, the technical executive had no idea that there was anything wrong with the cheerful tone. Instead, he continued to ask questions excitedly, as if he had caught some evidence of course it can be proven that I can't guarantee that in the future all developers who use a system have good intentions, but that doesn't prove that our system is not secure enough. Just like a police force everywhere can't detect whether every person on the street wants to commit a crime, but as long as the justice system is sound, crimes can be prevented. And I'm honored to tell you that what we have in this area is not just police officers with pistols, but a much larger army, and I can prove it to you right now, Karl said lightly, as if he didn't take the other party seriously at all, and he didn't even walk to Cedric's side point looking at Cedric, who lowered his head because of shame, and didn't dare to look at him. He reached out and rubbed the other's big head a few times. Don't feel guilty. These people don't even bother to ask questions. They must be executives of an operating system software company. It's because you are so good. Even I didn't imagine that this system could work so well. Your excellence arouses their jealousy, so they question you like this. Really? Cedric looked up at Karl in surprise. Of course it's true. Karl smiled gently. Don't lie to me. Cedric still didn't believe it. When have I ever lied to you? Karl rubbed the other's head with a smile, and that smile was like a summer sunflower in the sun point with an inexplicable power. But when he looked up, the summer sunflowers withered instantly point instead. There was the cold wind of Siberia, and the beautiful blue eyes were fixed on the middle-aged bald man. Point asked very politely, Mr. George Rutherford, right? The chief technology officer of Microsoft. You and your team developed the Windows system. It is indeed a role model for us to learn from, but your question today is undoubtedly questioning our technical strength. So, to prove it to you and everyone else, we are going to demonstrate our technical capabilities. What do you want? Mr. Rusev already felt that something was wrong, and his voice was trembling. Karl still had a smile on his face and spoke in a calm tone. It's very simple. If you want to prove that a company has the ability to deal with super powerful system attacks, first of all, it cannot crack other people's systems. If you can't crack other people's systems, how can you prove that you are better than them? Please give us 5 minutes. We're hacking your systems on the spot. Chapter 287 CEDRICN-039 S Angry Way. What? This is absolutely not possible. Great. I can open my eyes today. The leader immediately sent a team to the Microsoft headquarters building. There is a high possibility that there will be big news to be filmed. When Karl finished saying this, the scene instantly exploded. Needless to say, Mr. Rutherford looked panicked and absent-minded. Other personal PC users and computer hacker representatives all looked excited. You should know that among hackers and computer geeks, the most eye-catching way is to crack the system security firewalls of major companies. Now that they can hold a press conference and broadcast it live around the world, how can they not be excited? As for those reporters, they followed the Western tradition of running fast and frantically called their leaders. I was afraid of missing this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You are committing a crime. This behavior may cause immeasurable losses to our company. Stop this behavior immediately, otherwise we will sue you immediately. Mr. Rusev had no other tricks at this time, so he could only shout and threaten loudly. Karl, however, was dismissive of this and ignored the jumping monkey. He just leaned over and asked calmly in Cedric's ear, is 5 minutes enough? Actually, 10 minutes or less is acceptable. Don't feel any pressure. Like I just said, these guys are just jealous of you using your strength to defeat them. I believe you can do it, but this is a crime. Cedric was a little nervous. As a good student who rarely violated the school rules at Hogwarts, it is indeed a considerable psychological burden for him to suddenly start committing crimes. Karl didn't blame him this time. He just smiled and said in a nonchalant tone, don't be afraid. According to current US law, as the head of the company, I'm using my power to force you to commit a crime. Even if I really have to go to jail in the end, I will go. Go ahead and do it. As long as I'm by your side, as your leader, I will help you bear any danger. Cedric was silent, his hands on the keyboard typing frantically. No words, only unusual calmness. But Karl noticed that this guy's ears were red. Just when he was puzzled, a voice suddenly came. It has been cracked. So fast? Karl looked at Cedric in disbelief, but the guy didn't look up at him. He kept his head down and turned to the side, and I didn't know why, but none of this matters. Dealing with the squeaking rat in the audience is the top priority right now. So Karl slowly walked to the center of the stage, opened his arms and spoke calmly. I'm sorry, Mr. Rusev, we have cracked your company's system. You don't have any secrets from us now. How can it be? It's only been less than 30 seconds. Either there is something wrong with our ears, or the Windows system has a very fatal vulnerability. After Karl finished his announcement, all kinds of noisy sounds suddenly rang out, and the whispers from the audience made Mr. Rusev extremely embarrassed. How can you prove? He wanted to make one last attempt. However, he didn't expect that. As soon as he opened his mouth, the young man on the stage also spoke at the same time. As expected of a world-renowned media outlet, I just received news that a reporter from the New York Times has arrived in Redmond, Washington. Let's take a look at the scene directly, Mr. Diggory, and vent the grievances you just felt in your heart. I remember there was a shiny screen at the entrance of the Microsoft building. As soon as Karl finished speaking, the live broadcast signal of the New York Times was received through the internet on the circular screen at the press conference point, and at the same time, it was broadcast live on television, witnessed by millions of households across the United States. The giant screen used for display at the entrance of Microsoft's headquarters building began to change. The advertisement signal that had been playing continuously was cut off and replaced by large fonts in various colors. Hate it, bastard, black salted eggs are stupid, stinky green eggplants are the most annoying. Is there something wrong with my eyes? Are you sure those are the fonts moving on the screen? I think there's something wrong with my eyes. Shouldn't I be promoting the company's brand value at this moment? Why are these words scrolling? And who on earth does he hate? What are black marinated eggs and green eggplants? A computer geek player looked at the picture on the screen and asked his partner next to him uncertainly. The friends were also confused by the question. They kept rubbing their eyes and watched carefully for a full minute point. Only then did they finally confirm that there was nothing wrong with the eyes of both of them. At such an important moment, the blackened screen only displayed these fonts. It seems that technical geniuses all have some strange habits. I had only heard about it before, but now I have truly seen it. The constant exclamations made Karl, who was standing on the stage, extremely embarrassed. It seemed that he needed to teach this fool some swearing skills. How can we survive in the future internet world with such a level? The scene just now has fully demonstrated the cultural level and quality of our company. Please just laugh it off. We have fully demonstrated our technical strength, which is why we can assure you that our system is absolutely safe. We don't need to close the systems, and we don't need to use disgusting technical means. We have the most valuable asset, our extremely strong technical talent, and we will continue to fulfill the promise we just made. The X1000 system will always be open source to all users, and all users can develop their own programs based on the system, and the highest management rights of personal PCs will always be in the hands of the user. No one will be able to pass through the system without the user's permission. All rights including privacy are stolen. At the same time, some inconvenient software will be installed regardless of the risks. It will be entirely up to the user to decide whether to install it. Perfect. Great decision. No need to say more. Please go public. I'm going to maximum out my credit card. There was a thunderous applause, not just from the ordinary players or hackers watching the press conference. Countless personal PC users watching the live broadcast on TV also burst into cheers that were louder than the last in their homes or company offices. And just when almost everyone was cheering for this decision, the discordant voice sounded again. Mr. Rutherford said with a serious expression, after hanging up the phone, I just received a message from the company's legal department. We will formally sue your company for losses caused by cyber attacks. You will pay the price for your actions. Really? Karl looked at the other party with a smile and opened his hands. It doesn't matter whether you sue or not. Our most important task today is to complete this press conference. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give you the warmest applause. Welcome the Democratic candidate, the next President of the United States, Mr. Bill Clinton. Chapter 288. Who is the most important person? After Carol's introduction, everyone turned to look at the door of the room, only to see it surrounded by many black-clad bodyguards. A young handsome white man, with his signature smile, kept shaking hands and talking with others as they slowly approached the stage. The personal PC users and representatives of hacker organizations showed great enthusiasm along the way. Other company executives, as the ruling class of this country, seemed a little at a loss at such critical moments. They are of course much better informed than ordinary people, but it is also truly because of this reason this made them not know what to do for a moment. Isn't he campaigning in New York? The vote count in some middle states like Iowa and southern states is also tight. There are only 4 days left before the vote count. Why is he here if not canvassing for votes? Is he out of his mind? I think you are out of your mind. Don't forget his campaign slogan. The economy is at the heart of his campaign. It's all over America now. What could be more impactful to the economy than this? After this press conference, we will see another billionaire emerge out of nowhere. Corporate executives were talking about it, and some young executives seemed a little green and had no idea why the other party suddenly appeared here. Some older executives seemed much more sophisticated and pointed out the problems directly. But more people still report to their leaders secretly through their mobile phones or call some familiar fund managers. See if you can raise some cash first through leverage. After all, if you can get shares from this company next, you will really soar. While everyone knows it tacitly, there is one person who feels the most uncomfortable, and that is Mr. Rusev, who just announced the lawsuit. At this moment, he felt like a clown, being played around by others, although no one said anything on the surface about the emergence of this presidential candidate. In fact, everything was said. The other party's appearance is enough to show that the future US government is ready to cooperate with the young man in front of him. Even if this guy can't become the president of the United States, the other party can just find another party. As for betting on the wrong horse or choosing the wrong side, there is no problem at all. After all, this is America. There is nothing that cannot be traded. It is just a matter of price. Nice to meet you, Mr. Hohenzollern. On the other side of the stage, Mr. Clinton, as soon as he came on stage, immediately shook hands with Cole warmly and showed his signature smile. Carol was pulled to the center of the stage, where countless reporters were standing below, carrying cameras and taking pictures frantically. Under the continuous shining of white flashing lights, Karl also responded politely, "Thank you very much for coming, Mr. President, but we seem to have encountered some accidents just now, and your speech may be delayed by about 5 minutes. My chief technology officer hasn't finished talking about my company's future technology development path. As for other legal issues, I think after all the speeches are over, it is time to formally submit the listing request to you and your government for judgment. I think it's not too late to discuss it again. It seems that I'm not the most important to you." Upon hearing this, Mr. Clinton also began to perform. The young governor possessed the qualities of a political star. He made an exaggerated sad expression, which made everyone in the audience laugh, but I didn't know how much of the laughter was real and how much was fake. And after the performance, he suddenly pretended to be very serious. "But I still need to correct you. I'm not the president of the United States yet. We may not necessarily win this election." "Not necessarily." Karl showed a determined expression, then changed his tone and said sadly with a pout, "Because I have marked all the listing documents as being submitted to the Clinton administration for review. If you really don't become the president of the United States, then I will have to redo all my information, and I will lose a lot of money. Ha ha ha, you're too polite, Mr. Hohenzollern." Amidst the laughter and joy, all the deals were completed secretly, and the corporate executives in the audience were like puppets being manipulated by strings. He played the role of a background board throughout the whole show, laughing when he should laugh, and being quiet when he should be quiet. Looking at those hypocritical faces, Karl sometimes had to admire that some people really deserve to get rich. After all, knowing when to laugh and when to be quiet is a science point. The idea that democratic countries have no human relationships and worldly wisdom only exists in the imagination of some special two-legged dogs in the eastern big country. Why don't you just stop giving the speech? Just as Carol was sighing, Cedric suddenly spoke. He was no longer angry at this time, but still a little nervous. No matter how stupid he was, he could see that the focus of the whole audience had shifted to the middle-aged man sitting next to him. And from what Karl said, the other party may very well be the next president of the United States. It is hard to tell whether Karl's business can be successful. The other party must play a vital role. He is not afraid of making a fool of himself, nor is he afraid of those people's difficulties. Even if he couldn't subdue these people as easily as Karl, he could always just walk away. After all, these people mean nothing to him. But it's different now. All of this involves Carol's interests. This guy's annoying, unreasonable and biased. But he has already broken into my life. Don't worry. I told you that before you finish your speech. You are the protagonist of this stage. No one can change that. Just as Cedric hesitated, Karl spoke firmly. At the same time, he suddenly turned his eyes, deliberately lowered his head slowly, and whispered softly in the other person's ear. Didn't you hear a word just now? What? Cedric's voice was a little panicked, and his earlobes began to turn red again. Our future president just said that I'm not the most important to you. He was right. Do you want to know the answer to this question? Cedric turned to look at Karl in surprise, but all he saw was a smile of success on his face. Give your speech well. If the effect is not as expected, then you will not get the answer. You are excluded from this answer. As he said this, while everyone's attention was still attracted to Mr. Clinton, Carol slapped Cedric hard on the buttocks. This loud and crisp sound attracted everyone's attention. You're bullying me again, you annoying bastard. Chapter 289 Mysterious Other Technology Company. Feeling the sudden blow to his butt, Cedric felt suddenly ashamed, but he couldn't show it in public. He could only curse Karl in his heart, then tried to act calm, and continued to concentrate on his PPT presentation under the gaze of the entire audience. After discussing all the previous topics, I will talk about the most important technology development route of my company, fully mature artificial intelligence AI. What am I watching a science fiction movie? Is this something we can achieve right now? I think it's credible. After all, before today, who could have imagined that computers and CPU hardware of this level could be manufactured? After Cedric said the word AI, the environmental screen behind him also changed, and a detailed and complete timetable appeared behind him, as well as the outlook for the future development of artificial intelligence, AI, preliminary technical details, and the required hardware support. Everyone present was looking at the PPT on the circular screen, and for the third time they were forced into a state of shock. Some people don't believe it and think it's just a science fiction. Some people are worried and even start to think about their future career plans. Others were in high spirits, trying desperately to lower their voices in the corner to communicate with the person on the other end of the phone. Most of these people are corporate executives with connections to capital. The reason for being so excited is that the AI concept that the other party has now come up with is far more attractive than the previous product. As for why, it may be that a real product will always have shortcomings of one kind or another, but as long as a future concept is not realized, it is perfect, at least in terms of attracting investment. Using the high-performance Magic 1000 processor, as well as more powerful new products in the future, plus the smoothness of the X1000 processing system, with the collective wisdom of software developers around the world, I believe that the application of AI in the future will surely come sooner. Our company named this project Zeus, the god's hope for the liberation of future productivity. On the other side of the stage, Cedric continued to concentrate on his PPT presentation, with his head down and expressionless face, like a ruthless script reading machine. Zeus integrates machine learning and deep learning algorithms to provide users with intelligent data analysis, prediction, and decision support. Our AI modules can not only self-learn and self-optimize, but also provide customized services based on the characteristics of different industries, helping companies achieve digital transformation. Finally, we know that the power of technology lies in its application. Therefore, the Zeus project is committed to becoming a pioneer in leading the world's technological development. We will continue to explore the deep integration of emerging technologies such as future communications, the Internet of Things, IoT, and cloud computing with the Zeus AI system, in order to bring users a richer and more efficient network experience. 5G, the Internet of Things, IoT, cloud computing, and full artificial intelligence, AI, each new noun, like a dose of deadly drug, stimulates and amplifies the inner desires of everyone. Politicians want to gain huge public opinion traffic through this press conference. Investors have been impatient for a long time. As planes land at the airport, countless capitals are pouring in like a flood. Perfect speech, as I have always said, is really perfect speech, which is nothing more than the use of language to show the common people facts which they do not know. Give them the right direction and let them make their own decisions. Just like this great country of ours. Just like what is happening in countless voting booths. We are on the right track, and you and I are on this journey together. It was not until Mr. Clinton's voice rang out that many people in the audience woke up from their dreams and realized that the technical speech had already ended. And everyone also discovered some details. That is, behind the Democratic candidate, there was a giant circular screen that was just showing the technical details. Now it has turned into the other party's policy propaganda content and the exaggerated red, white, and blue American flag pattern commonly used by politicians during campaigns, and that huge personal photo. If this happened at a campaign rally that had been prepared long ago, of course it's not surprising at all. But now that it's happening before our eyes, there is only one possibility. That was Mr. Hohenzollern and his mysterious company before the press conference began. I have been in contact with Mr. Clinton for a long time. Just like that. Carol didn't say a word. Not even a single extra word. The company had just been registered, and its financial statements had not yet been submitted to the US Treasury for audit. Its shares haven't even been listed on Nasdaq yet. It's a technology startup with no background at all. In everyone's imagination, it has been cast in a mysterious aura of Democratic Party capital. First of all, I would like to thank this great technology company for providing us with such a platform where we can brainstorm and jointly draw a blueprint for the future. It is this spirit of innovation and unremitting pursuit that has driven the progress of human civilization. In the past few decades, we have witnessed the miracle of information technology. The internet has begun to gradually connect every corner of the world, and personal computers have begun to enter ordinary people's homes. And now, Mr. Hohenzollern and his team are leading a new round of technological revolution. The X1000 operating system will improve our daily lives and demonstrate its great potential in many fields such as healthcare, education, and transportation. Mr. Clinton spoke endlessly about his oratory skills, even though there was no one in the audience. All the corporate executives in the audience, the reporters taking pictures, and even ordinary forum bloggers received a large number of calls for unknown reasons. Countless fund managers and senior investors are eager to get any information about this press conference from these people. The area beneath the stage has become a sea of desire. Amidst the invisible wireless communication lights in the sky. The country's fortunes are undergoing a dramatic reversal, and the man who caused it all, Karl, is just standing quietly in the corner of the stage. With a fake smile on his face, he looked at everyone with narrowed eyes. It was not until Mr. Clinton finished his speech that he took a thick report on the request for listing from Kevin Lestrange. He deliberately walked slowly towards Mr. Clinton to ensure that all reporters could see him from different angles. This precious moment was captured, and in the end the two people shook hands and smiled while holding the listing document together. The abbreviation of the company name MAT, Mystic Ether Technologies, is printed in gold on the document. Under the spotlight, the future officially sets sail. Chapter 290, Mountain Cabin and Argument. Early morning of November 1992, 11, in the central Rocky Mountains of Montana. A small wooden cabin in the forest is located in the dense woods. The appearance of the cabin is simple and quaint, and the wooden walls appear mottled and weathered after years of baptism. The roof was covered with thick white snow and some exposed moss, blending in with the surrounding environment, as if no one had lived there for a long time. But the steps leading to the front door had obviously been cleaned, and the air in the high altitude mountains was very thin and cold. There had been a few snowfalls a few nights before, and the tall pine trees around the cabin were covered in white coats, with crystal snow beads hanging on every needle. A breeze blew, and sporadic snowflakes fell like tiny silver flakes occasionally. A little squirrel leaps across the snow, leaving behind a trail of footprints of varying depths, adding a bit of vitality. When the sunlight penetrates the clouds and shines on this quiet mountain forest, the windows of the wooden house reflect dazzling light. Inside the house, the wood fire crackled in the stove, emitting a reassuring warmth. Sitting by the window, you can see the snow scene outside like an exquisite painting, which makes people indulge in this rare tranquility and beauty. Of course this was just some fantasy. Cedric just stood on the windowsill in a daze for a few seconds. There was an impatient urging from behind. Stop being in a daze, Mr. Diggory. If you don't finish chopping the firewood you have, then our fireplace will go out tonight, and then no matter how tightly you hold Karl, the cold will still keep you awake, let alone having lunch. Kevin Lestrange stared at the other person, his tone revealing an inexplicable sourness. He really couldn't imagine that a boy who was almost an adult liked to sleep with something in his arms. This made it extremely awkward for three people who were sleeping in the same room and couldn't separate their beds at the beginning. This guy's targets were random, but after he got slapped 3 times by himself one night, the target basically became Mr. Hohenzollern. The key thing he couldn't understand was why the other party didn't reject such unreasonable behavior. What made him even more angry was that after breakfast one time, this guy went crazy and actually said to him secretly, "I can now tell the difference between you and Karl in my dreams. Your body is too stiff, like a stone, that only gets hot. Karl is completely different. He always says that I eat too much and have a small belly, but he has one too, and it's very soft. It feels like a huge piece when I hug him." Although he was sure that this guy didn't mean to show off when he said this to him, it was just a reaction. After being oppressed for a long time, suddenly I realized that the other person had the same problem as me, and I wanted to complain to someone nearby. But no matter how he thought about it afterwards, he always felt that this guy was showing off, and it was even worse. After he fell asleep several times, he was actually fantasizing in his mind a huge golden color, what it feels like to hold. Why should I do this hard work when you can sit in the warm kitchen and cook our meals for the day? Just when Kevin Lestrange accidentally fell into this strange memory again, Cedric's dissatisfied voice suddenly sounded. He quickly returned to the present from his memories and squinted his eyes at the idiot in front of him who had been chopping with an axe for half an hour, but there were less than 20 pieces of broken wood under his feet. The reason is very simple, because if we let you cook it, we will just get a bunch of meat wrapped in various strange syrups. You can't cook, Mr. Diggory. You're just a spoiled brat, so go do something unskilled. And even if it's this, I don't think you can do it very well. What nonsense are you talking about? Cedric was angry. In his eyes, the guy in front of him was just an ungrateful bastard. In order to thank him for helping me complete the speech, I shared Karl's secret with him. This kind of friendly interaction that can only occur between close friends did not receive the goodwill it deserved. On the contrary, since that day on, this guy has become more and more aggressive against me, and I cannot back down today, no matter what. So he said bluntly, "Your cooking skills are not that great. You can only make simple pasta, and you often have trouble controlling the amount of salt. It's either bland or extremely salty, and you actually called me a spoiled brat. The same goes for you. Karl is the only one among the 3 of us who can really cook. You should go out hunting." "You are right, Mr. Diggory," Kevin Lestrange sneered, "but you have overlooked the most important issue. I don't know how to hunt. Even if we use magic, the 2 of us won't be able to harvest any prey if we stay out there for a week. And since we've already mentioned the concept of prey, let me teach you a little known piece of knowledge. If A group of scientific expedition members accidentally encounter a tiger in the forest. How should they save themselves? What kind of question is that? According to the information I have, humans cannot outrun tigers. If they don't have magic, they will definitely die. Cedric really analyzed it seriously. His expression was serious, and he was even ready to give some scientific data point. Kevin Lestrange interrupted him, walked in front of him with a large ladle in his hand, and looked at him with a smile. See, this is your way of thinking. You are indeed a great technical worker. I have to admire Mr. Hohenzollern's ability to judge people, but my way of thinking is completely different from yours. If the two of us were members of that scientific expedition team, then I would think that I just need to outrun you. A nearly adult human male is enough for a tiger to have a meal with. I don't need any scientific data. Just like what I do, I think about people's hearts. What exactly do you want to say? Hearing this answer, Cedric was stunned for a second and looked at the other party strangely. I have no ill intentions. I just want to make a point. You are right. We are both spoiled brats, but even so, I'm still better than you. Kevin Lestrange patted Cedric on the shoulder, his head held high with a proud expression, looking at the other person's raised chin. Cedric really wanted to punch him if he didn't look like an 11-year-old kid. He took several deep breaths, trying to suppress the anger in his heart, and then seemed to suddenly remember something. What if it was Karl? How would he deal with this situation? Kevin Lestrange thought for a few seconds and blurted out, he wouldn't run away. The moment the tiger attacked, he had his shotgun in his hand, and then, boom, a sound like a gunshot rang out behind them, and the tightly closed door of the wooden house was kicked open from the outside. An adult jaguar with a bullet wound in the forehead was thrown to the floor. Looking at the tragic death of the big cat, Cedric's cheek twitched, and then the tiger came into our pot. Chapter 291. The ongoing struggle between the two spoiled children. What tiger? It's a mountain lion. Karl patted the snowflakes off his body and looked at the two of them with some weird illusion. Then he looked around and said somewhat unhappily, I went out hunting at 4 AM today, and it's already 8 AM. I thought I would have a hot and delicious breakfast when I came back, but now I find that nothing has changed in the house. Mr. Lestrange, is this how you work? Well, Kevin Lestrange was a little embarrassed. He couldn't tell the other party that he was late for breakfast because he slept in. After being silent for a while, he could only stand aside obediently, lowering his head and keeping silent. You can't even do such a simple thing. Cedric saw the other party being scolded by Karl and immediately added insult to injury. Before he could be happy for a while, Karl's eyes were fixed on him, and the pieces of broken wood under his feet. You, Mr. Diggory, it's been 4 hours since I left the house, and you've only chopped less than 4 pieces of wood. Do you have any muscle damage or something? You may have to wait until the 3 of us are not awake before you can finish chopping all this wood. Faced with the criticism, Cedric could only stand aside obediently, lowering his head and remaining silent. Looking at his 2 men, Karl snorted coldly and criticized them in summary. Look at the 2 of you. When it comes to real life, you 2 are like spoiled brats. I'm not a spoiled child. Kevin Lestrange was dissatisfied in his heart, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. Cedric looked at Karl deeply and complained in his heart helplessly. Can't you look for the reason in yourself? If a child is spoiled, doesn't it also depend on who spoils him? But no matter what the 2 guys thought, after drinking a pot of hot tea, Karl put the cougar that was thrown on the ground back on his back. Then he looked at the 2 people and gave orders. I'm going to skin and cut up this beast. You 2 should finish your work immediately, or you won't have any lunch. Boom. The door of the wooden house was slammed shut again, and the 2 people who were standing next to it as punishment breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Then they looked at each other. Humph, humph. After 2 cold snorts, the cabin finally returned to silence. When the midday sun shines through the gaps in the leaves and onto the wooden table, a delicious lunch is about to begin. On the table was a pot of steaming beef stew with potatoes, The meat was tender, the potatoes were soft and glutinous, the soup was rich, and exuded an intense aroma. Next to it is a plate of colorful fresh vegetables, red tomatoes, green lettuce, and yellow corn. Each one is picked from a nearby farm, fresh and healthy. There was also a plate of pasta. The noodles were chewy and smooth, paired with homemade tomato sauce and some fresh basil leaves. Simple but flavorful. These foods are not only delicious, but also nutritionally balanced, which increases people's appetite. Of course, all this was just Cedric's imagination. There was indeed a pot of potato stew, but the meat in the pot was not beef. It was an adult mountain lion, and Karl's cutting method was very wild, and the poor big cat's front paws were not even cut. Soaked completely in the soup. Looking at those sharp claws, Cedric found it difficult to muster an appetite. What's even more bizarre is that, in order to show off his hunting results, Karl used magic to make specimens of every prey he shot and hung them high up in the cabin. And that poor big cat's head was facing Cedric's direction every time it looked up. He always felt a sudden chill all over his body. Apart from this, the other food is really hard to swallow, and the colorful fresh vegetables are just imagination. In fact, they were just cans that had been stored for who knows how long. When they were poured onto the plate, they had already turned into an unknown viscous liquid. As for the pasta, it was even more infuriating. That bastard was definitely taking revenge on me. When I took the first bite, Cedric almost went straight to Merlin, because of the bitter and salty taste that exploded in his mouth. It tastes good. Your cooking skills have finally improved, Mr. Lestrange. After one person shared a mountain lion's front paw, Karl cleared the remaining spaghetti on his plate. The feeling of fullness brought by carbohydrates and protein made him feel much better. He directly praised Kevin Lestrange, and at the same time he did not forget to care about Cedric. Looking at the other person's unchanged plate, he asked with some concern, "What's wrong, Mr. Diggory? Are you going on a diet to lose weight?" Upon hearing this, Cedric was about to cry to Karl, but suddenly he felt a mocking breath coming from the side. He turned his head and found that the bastard was looking at him with a smile. What a vicious plot. Cedric sighed inwardly. This guy just wants to embarrass himself in front of Karl. You came here to prove that you are the spoiled brat, but I won't let you get what you want. Cedric, who thought he saw through the other party's thoughts, first said it lightly. It's okay. I just got distracted. Then, under the gaze of Kevin Lestrange, who looked like he had seen a ghost, this guy actually ate the whole plate of noodles in big mouthfuls. You have to know that Kevin Lestrange just wanted to play a prank on the other person, so he deliberately put some unpalatable potion in his pasta. This potion requires a trigger condition, which is the glass of water that Cedric drank, which contains another colorless and odorless potion. As long as these two potions are combined together, they can produce a bitter and salty taste that ordinary humans cannot bear. But if it is just one kind of potion, it will not affect the taste of the pasta. He wanted to see this guy panic and ask Karl for help, but after tasting it, the other party had no problem and instead suspected him. But I didn't expect this guy to have such perseverance. No, it should be because Kevin Lestrange looked at Karl, who was wiping Cedric's sweat, and suddenly felt an inexplicable discomfort in his heart. Mr. Lestrange, please don't use your fork so hard on the noodles. They are just noodles and they won't resist. Karl's voice rang out again, and he looked at Kevin Lestrange, who was desperately poking the noodles in front of him with the fork in his hand. Said with a puzzled look. On the other side, Cedric stared at the other person, showing a smug smile and sighing in his heart. I won. Then, celebrating in his heart, he grabbed the water cup beside him and drank it all in one gulp, then fell heavily to the floor with foam at the mouth. Chapter 292 Election Night. Dear viewers, we now bring you the latest results of the US election. The announcer's voice came slowly from the TV. On the big screen at the back of the huge studio, the red and blue map was gradually filled up, and the count of every vote touched people's hearts. This year's election situation is very strange. According to our previous understanding, it was just before October 10th, the Republican and Democratic candidates, President George Bush and Governor Bill Clinton of Arkansas, the first few rounds of polls showed that the race was very close, and in New York and several battleground states, the vote margin was very small. But Just 10 hours after October 31st, polls conducted by multiple media outlets showed that Mr. Bill Clinton had a significant lead. That's right, John. Just in the last 72 hours, we saw Mr. Bill Clinton go Western New York, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Northern Illinois, Eastern Iowa, etc. I estimate that he flew more frequently in those 3 nights than I did using taxis. He gave many keynote speeches in these places, announcing that he would use new technology and new manufacturing to save these areas, and he called it the American Manufacturing 2.0 plan. I have to admit that, if I were just an ordinary blue-collar worker, I would also be attracted to this plan. Yes, my dear Tom, you are right, and they are all a beautiful shade of blue, just as we expected. The hosts on TV were making jokes and joking around. As a Democratic media, they were obviously very confident about this election. Point inside the cabin, Cedric finally woke up slowly amid the noisy sound of the TV. Point he looked around and found that it was already dark, and Karl and Kevin Lestrange had got a huge LCD TV from somewhere. Point sitting on the sofa in the living room of the cabin, watching the news reports attentively. "You're awake?" Karl found that Cedric had woken up and said with a suppressed smile, "Mr. Diggory, you always surprise me. You knew there was something wrong with that plate of spaghetti, but you still insisted on eating it. Your brain is always capable of coming up with different ideas. Okay, stop being a child. Put it in the pot and fill your stomach first." Cedric wanted to explain himself, but his rumbling stomach prevented him from thinking too much. Point he could only turn around and go to the kitchen, while Karl and Kevin Lestrange were still staring at the TV screen. Beautiful dear viewers, according to the latest news, Pennsylvania has turned blue. Now, our advantage is very large. Mr. Bill Clinton has obtained 176 electoral votes, and now the votes have only been counted for less than half an hour. If we can win Florida, Michigan, and Arizona, then the victory can be basically secured. This may be the most suspense-free election we have seen in many years. The white-haired host Tom seemed very proud at this time, and was even able to make some jokes at such an important juncture. Point on the other hand, the special guest John, who was obviously much younger, seemed more flamboyant. He even drew a conclusion on the spot and spoke bluntly. "Secondly, there is no suspense. I think Mrs. Clinton should start shopping for new curtains and new furniture for the White House. It is indeed as Tom said just now. This may be the fastest vote count we have ever witnessed. According to various previous predictions, the constant tug-of-war may not happen this year, and the data we just got shows that the age of citizens participating in the election this time around is not going to happen. They appear to be much younger than before. At the same time, we also find that with the popularization of personal computers, the role of the internet in this election is becoming more and more obvious. I would boldly predict that in the near future traditional newspapers and television media may not be as influential as the internet. Future presidential elections will likely rely on the power of new media on the internet. Are they introducing us? Just when Carol and the other man were still watching TV intently, Cedric's voice suddenly sounded behind them. There were still traces of cream on this guy's mouth, and he was holding half a cake in his hand. As soon as he saw the cake, Kevin Lestrange immediately turned his gaze to Karl, his eyes full of questioning. "Didn't you say it was just a normal dinner? Why would he have cake?" Karl seemed to have heard the other person's thoughts. He could only drink water tactically to hide his embarrassment, while glaring at Cedric fiercely. Then he changed the subject and pointed at the TV while explaining, "This is not an ad we put out. Today is a very important day. The votes will be counted tonight and the next president of the United States will be determined. But this is just what ordinary people think. For most capitalists and political speculators, today is the unveiling ceremony of a huge gamble, which will determine whether my investment in the next 4 years will bear fruit." Gambling? Cedric still didn't quite understand. Karl had indeed recommended a few books to him before Point let him know some common sense about American politics, but he discovered it through his daily experience. Point most books about politics are actually not very useful, and the rules on the surface are always just for show. Point the rules hidden in the dark are the key to governing this game. Point, so he didn't read those books seriously, and now when he suddenly heard Karl's introduction, he seemed a little confused. It's actually very simple. Two gangs took a large amount of money and handed it over to their investment managers. I generally prefer to use that term, whether they are called party candidates or presidential candidates. After receiving the money, the investment manager went to a casino called the US election and placed his bets on 50 gambling items. Then, according to the winner takes all game rules, whoever wins an event will be able to get the corresponding points. Once one player has obtained more than half of the total points, he wins the game and all the chips belong to him. This is a simplistic summary of the political game. I think you can understand it with your IQ. Kevin Lestrange, who was sitting on the sofa, spoke slowly without turning his head. Although this rule is cruel, at least it is very fair. It's not like some people always like to favor others and give them special treatment. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 293, The Weird Kevin Lestrange. Cole was very clear that these words were spoken to him, and at the same time he vaguely felt that something was wrong. Point, so he quickly changed the subject and continued talking with a smile, pointing at the TV. Let's watch this big show first, and then study it in detail. From what you said, this selection is nothing more than a game of capital, and the so-called democratic spirit and the brilliance of humanity contained therein are irrelevant. Isn't this a complete scam? Cedric interrupted Karl's speech a little angrily, as a Hufflepuff who was kind to the point of being naive. Point, even after going through so much with Karl, he still believes that there are always some real spirits in this world. Point, in fact, before he came to the United States, he had high expectations for this most powerful country in Muggle society. Point, and indeed, in the cities of this country, he felt the kind of vitality that he had never felt before in the Crimean Peninsula and many European countries. But now, according to what this annoying guy said, the general election, which is the core of democracy, has completely turned into a scam full of conspiracy. Point, this was a little hard for him to accept. I didn't expect your understanding to be so profound. Kevin Lestrange praised with a hint of sarcasm. Your summary is very profound. It is indeed as you said. This political game is a scam to a certain extent. Benjamin Franklin, a famous statesman in this country, once said, "You can fool all the people some of the time, and you can fool some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time." This is simply a joke. After all the elections, it's still just these two parties. One day, the American people will be asked to choose between two piles of shit. Pick a president for your country. If reality is really as you say, then why should we continue to watch this boring hoax? Cedric couldn't accept it even more and shouted angrily, "It's really wonderful." Kevin Lestrange finally turned around and looked at the other party, continuing to complain and speak sarcastically. "What a boring scam. What a profound and accurate comment. You have directly cursed everyone here with this sentence. We certainly won't take part in a frivolous scam unless it benefits us, dear Mr. Diggory. We also bet a lot on this bet. Don't forget that press conference. You saw it with your own eyes. Carol is just using them. He would never get involved in such a despicable thing," Cedric said firmly, looking at Karl. "Did he promise you?" Kevin Lestrange pretended to be surprised and then looked at Karl, who was already a little uneasy. "Such a noble idea really impressed me, Mr. Hohenzollern. I didn't expect you to be so courageous. So, do you want to earn the $500 billion through moral means or legal means? Just tell me. I'll follow your instructions. If you ask me, you should be placed in Slytherin House. You and Professor Snape will definitely become close friends in language arts." Karl looked at Kevin Lestrange with a forced smile, and there was even a hint of request in his eyes, hoping that the other party would stop talking. Is there any difference between moral and legal means? And where did the 500 billion US dollars come from? What's the matter with this number? How come I haven't heard of this plan? Besides, Karl doesn't need this money at all. He is already rich enough. Even if he wants to earn it slowly, I can help him. Really? Kevin Lestrange raised his voice deliberately, making the sarcasm in his words even stronger. He even gave Karl a look that said, before turning back to Cedric, "So, you didn't tell him? I'm really flattered." Then he stared at Cedric and spoke seriously. "You don't even know this number." On the day of the press conference, Mr. Hohenzollern told me about the future plans. I thought that such an important plan would definitely inform you first. After all, your friendship with him is longer lasting, but now it seems there is some misunderstanding. He may have said he forgot to inform you. Hearing this, Cedric was struck by lightning and almost dropped the half cake in his hand. He looked at Carol with disbelief in his eyes. Cole was about to explain. Kane Lestrange spoke first. "Hold the cake in your hand tightly and don't drop it on the ground. You have to remember that you are in such a remote place. It costs you nothing to make a cake of this quality. I remember we had about $56 in our account before this money suddenly disappeared a few days ago, and I was wondering where it was spent. Now it seems to be in your hands. This is a very expensive gift. You can also hear that your Mr. Hohenzollern is not so wealthy anymore. The amount of money in his account right now is zero." "What?" Cedric looked at Karl in confusion. Karl looked at the two of them helplessly, scratched his head, and then spoke directly. "Don't doubt your ears. It is just as Mr. Lestrange said. I don't have a penny in my account now, but don't worry, it's definitely not because you've eaten me out of money. Even if your stomach is big, it's impossible for me to go bankrupt because of eating. The vast majority of my liquid funds are basically used to invest in our company's industrial lines. A large sum of money was used to purchase the land we are on now. This house cost nearly 10 billion. So expensive." Kevin Lestrange and Cedric looked at Cole at the same time, their eyes full of interrogation. Carol looked at the two people and always felt that something was wrong. Why did he feel like someone close to him was asking him where he spent his money and whether he had hidden some private money? But in order to avoid too much unnecessary conversation between the two of them, he spoke directly. "It's not the house we are in now, it's the entire mountain range where this house is located and all the forests and lakes around it. I bought this land from the state government in the name of nature conservation. In the future, it will become a nature reserve for magical animals. It is not to provide the necessary raw materials for our pharmaceutical industry. This is also the promise I made to Hagrid a long time ago. You know I keep my word and I will never break it. I knew Carol wouldn't lie to me." Cedric nodded with great satisfaction when he heard this. "Yes, he won't lie to you or to certain people. He doesn't keep his word and is still biased." Kevin Lestrange, with a look of disdain on his face, muttered to himself in a low voice, "Let's just watch TV." Chapter 294. The cat dog walk continues. Karl already felt that something was wrong, and the jealousy from Kevin Lestrange beside him was about to explode. Compared to the golden retriever, that can be easily fooled, my French cat is much more difficult to deal with. He was afraid that if he continued talking, he would be scratched all over the face by the cat's claws, so he quickly tried to divert their attention to the TV, but the effect did not seem to be obvious just then. Several hosts on TV were introducing the election situation in several battleground states with a smile on their faces. "It's almost time for the dust to settle." Cedric suddenly asked again, "So, if we really win this time, how much money can we make? How much can I get?" He said this just out of curiosity. In fact, he had no concrete idea about the 500 billion target mentioned by Karl. I asked these questions just to think about whether I could get rid of Karl's bondage, if I could really make a lot of money. Total cake freedom. However, he didn't expect that. As soon as he asked the question, Karl immediately glared at him with cold eyes and then spoke directly, as if he had predicted the future. "How much you earn is none of your business. although I will definitely give you your share. It is in accordance with the laws of the British wizarding world in the United Kingdom. Before you reach adulthood, all the money you earn will be kept by your guardian. Don't even think about spending it on extravagant eating and drinking. Also, I want to inform you that your share of the pie for this month has been completely used up. What? Cedric screamed. Today is only the 4th. The month has just begun. You can't do this. You have no right. Of course I do. Karl, who had wanted to deal with it coldly, was angrily yelled at Cedric's retort point at the same time. Throw a note to the other person. This is a contract I signed with your father. As long as you work in my company, managing your body shape is one of my rights. In other words, your father has sold you to me, Mr. Diggory, for all you're yelling about. Don't blame me for doing something excessive to you. Cedric looked at the note and his body began to tremble. He didn't know whether it was out of anger or excessive sadness on the other side. Kevin Lestrange initially heard Karl say that the other party's share of the cake had been consumed. He still seemed somewhat happy, but as the topic progressed, his expression became more and more solemn. Looking at Karl, he asked sarcastically, "Where is my contract? My dear Mr. Hohenzollern? Oh, I don't have it. How could I have forgotten that? I found you and am willing to pledge my loyalty to you. This kind of thing that requires protection is meaningless to me. After all, I'm just a chess piece. A useful chess piece that can be taken down when necessary." I was being self-indulgent and unprofessional, which is really shameful. Kevin Lestrange gave an apologetic look, then sat there in silence, his eyes fixed on the TV screen. On the other side, Cole wanted to explain to the other party, but Cedric kept pestering him. "I do not agree to this contract. I will cancel it immediately. I want to be free. I'm not anyone's slave. You can't do whatever you want to me." "Shut up." Karl, who was blocked at both ends, finally exploded. He suddenly stood up and clamped Cedric's neck with his right hand. He simply threw the opponent onto the sofa with a back hug, and then pressed his right hand tightly on the opponent's chest. He forced the other person to sit on the sofa, pointed at the TV screen with his left hand, and spoke word by word with twitching facial features. "From now on, you are not allowed to say a word. Just watch this live broadcast quietly. If you keep looking for trouble, I will make you a vegetarian for the rest of the year, not just this month. Don't even think about getting any cake or anything like that. Don't even think about getting any meat." There was no threat more cruel than this. Cedric, who was pressed on the sofa, nodded desperately. He was afraid that if he agreed a step too late, he would become a herbivore. Finally, under these circumstances, the cabin returned to its peaceful state. There was only the host's voice coming from the TV, but Karl knew very well that it was just the calm before the storm. After all, if three good friends are sitting together watching TV, there is no need to be so far apart. Looking at Kevin Lestrange, who had already sat on the edge of the sofa, Karl could only sigh helplessly and spoke calmly. "I know you have a lot of doubts in your mind right now, just like many wizards in Britain have. Why is this greedy blonde devil so obsessed with money? His wealth would have been more than he could spend in several lifetimes. Why do you still work so hard to amass wealth? Can people really be that greedy?" Karl's words were very light, with a hint of self-mockery and helplessness in his words, and this feeling was very real. It didn't seem like a performance. He didn't get a response, but he continued talking. "It's actually very simple. People pursue money, knowledge, and love. All of this is just for their own desires, or simply put, they want to get what they want in this way. It's the same thing I'm pursuing. There's one thing that I need so much financial support for, even though it's not something I can buy with money, but the method is the same. So today, I ask you two to help me fulfill a wish." Cedric and Kevin Lestrange turned to look at Karl almost at the same time, both of them revealing disbelief in their eyes. Needless to say, Cedric had never said the word request in the more than 1 year that he had been with Karl. Even if he was really asking for help, it was just a joke. He had never imagined that the word request would be spoken in such a serious and slow tone. Kevin Lestrange was staring at Karl, watching every expression on his face. This was what the rational mind in his mind told him. Point: as an undercover agent, I must remain calm in dealing with any emergency, and most importantly, I must not be sincere towards the person in front of me. Point. But when the other party said this just now, he had to admit that there was a very strange change in his heart for a moment. Point: this change was different from the quarrel between me and that annoying big-headed ghost. I didn't do that out of jealousy. Point: it was just out of a just need to fight for fairness. But now, no matter how he told himself rationally. Point: he also had to admit that his heart was a little confused at that moment. Chapter 295. The election ends and the hunt begins. What is the specific share figure? After a few minutes of silence, Kevin Lestrange spoke awkwardly. Point: Carol was stunned for a moment when he heard this, but he quickly reacted and smiled knowingly. As long as the other party was willing to talk to him. Point: everything is fine. As for the confusion and embarrassment behind it, they are just some memories. So he spoke very seriously. We have a total of 40% of the shares here. I own 15% alone, and you and Cedric each own 5%. Professor Snape has 3%, Mr. Arthur Weasley has 2%, and the remaining 10% is divided more finely. There is no need for me to elaborate. This distribution ratio can be fine-tuned. I will also take out 5% of the shares. You make the 500 billion for me. We also have 5%. Kevin Lestrange smiled. If I'm not mistaken, the remaining 60%, the scope of financing, will be very large, and you will definitely sign an agreement with the investor to obtain the right to operate the company for at least 10 years in the future. But have you ever thought about the impact of an individual holding 5% of the shares on a future super enterprise? Once we are no longer willing to cooperate with you, we are likely to become the target of those financing institutions and even challenge your operating rights. Really? Karl smiled knowingly. No problem. I'm always welcome, but I don't think so, because I trust you. He looked at Kevin Lestrange and deliberately gave an exaggerated expression that said, I trust you. This made the other party a little embarrassed, but Cedric, who had been sitting closely next to Karl, saw the two of them confronting each other. Their point suddenly jumped out and said loudly, I might. As a result, before he could finish his words, he was pushed down on the sofa by Carol again. Shut up. Unless those investors want to go bankrupt, they won't choose you as the CEO of the management company. You don't have that kind of brain. Ha ha ha. Hearing what Karl said, Kane Lestrange suddenly burst into laughter. You bullied me again. Cedric, who was pushed down on the sofa, yelled in dissatisfaction. Point: the result was that they were both laughed at. Point: and just as the cabin was filled with laughter, the host on TV suddenly laughed excitedly and announced excitedly, Dear viewers, we have just received confirmed news that the state of Florida has turned blue. At the same time, the votes in Arizona have been counted, and Mr. Clinton has won 11 electoral votes here by a narrow margin. Mr. Clinton has received 273 electoral votes. According to the US Constitution, a candidate needs 270 electoral votes to be elected president. Let's all start cheering for victory. We won. After the host finished his announcement, the TV camera began to flip, and dozens of live cameras were suddenly connected to the big screen in the studio. Point: from the red brick Freedom Trail in the historic city of Boston on the east coast to the skyline of Manhattan. Point: the Statue of Liberty and the Brooklyn Bridge were filled with celebrating Democratic voters. Red, white, and blue fireworks exploded in the sky, and American flags were flying everywhere. Even Denver, Colorado, a city surrounded by mountains, is in a carnival at the moment. They look very happy, Cedric blurted out as he looked at the footage on the TV screen. Of course. Karl nodded calmly, and then said disdainfully, after all, after tonight, who knows if they are the masters of this country. Everyone would be happy to have the chance to be a human once every 4 years, but happiness can't change anything. For as he was talking, Karl suddenly started counting down, leaving Cedric confused. What are you counting down? 1. Karl did not answer immediately. Instead, after finishing the countdown, he took out a satellite phone. Point: as if waiting for something. Less than half a second later the phone rang. Point: he deliberately waited a short while, then threw the satellite phone to Kevin Lestrange. Congratulations, Mr. Clinton. Kevin Lestrange answered the phone without hesitation and immediately put on an ecstatic yet somewhat nervous tone. Oh, I said that wrong. Forgive my mistake, Mr. President. Congratulations, Mr. President. You have brought us a new future, Mr. Hohenzollern. I and our entire technical team would like to express our sincere congratulations to you. Securities and Exchange Commission review? No sir, we have not received any notification. We fully believe that under your leadership, the new government will definitely improve its work efficiency. What? 1 week? Isn't that a bit too hasty? No problem, I will inform Mr. Hohenzollern. Kevin Lestrange hung up and threw the satellite phone back to Karl. As you might guess, the US Securities and Exchange Commission will review all the documents required for our company to go public within a week. I don't think this should be a big problem. After all, you handed those documents to the future President of the United States in person in front of a global audience. Even if it was a few minutes ago, there might still be variables, but now their efficiency should have doubled. By the way, Mr. Clinton wants to invite you to attend a thank you party in a week and discuss with you the priority legislation regarding fiscal appropriations. What are you going to do? Don't worry about it, Karl said directly, at least before his inauguration. We should try not to show up. What about the time limit? Kevin Lestrange asked a new question. How about around Christmas time? Technique. Requirements. First, sell off and then short the stock heavily so that they will mistakenly believe that this is a scam and eat up all the first wave of financing. I understand. Not only do you want money, you also want to get every penny of your shares. What? A clever man. The two of them asked and answered questions and easily completed the handover of all the task details. Seeing the two of them looking so relaxed and happy made Cedric feel a little jealous and confused at the same time. Seeing that the two of them had been talking for a long time and didn't want to pay attention to him, he suddenly yelled, I don't understand what you two just said. Doesn't my opinion have any reference value? Unnecessary. Thank you for your support. These words made Carol and the other man turn their heads to look at him at the same time. After a simple look up and down, they answered coldly and politely. Chapter 296, Comforting the Kitten. Mr. Diggory, go and chop the wood. I want to have a nice hot bath tonight. And Mr. Hohenzollern, I'd like to have white-tailed deer stewed with carrots tonight, with a little rosemary and black pepper. The taste should be a little lighter. I'm not like someone who has no taste. In the cabin, Kevin Lestrange was sitting in his office, issuing orders to Karl and Cedric in a haughty manner. A week ago, this was just a storage room for sundries, but after Carol's week-long renovation it has become very modern, with 3 huge electronic screens showing the current New York Stock Exchange, American Stock Exchange and Nasdaq stock markets, the market changes of the 3 major stock exchanges, and 3 Omega quartz watches certified by the observatory hung at the top of the room. The time of the 3 major exchanges is displayed respectively, and countless red and green stock K lines rise and fall on the screen. Behind this are trillions of dollars of capital flowing madly across this country. Can't you change someone else? Cedric, who was ordered, looked at Cole with a face full of grievance. He has been ordering us around for a week. We have been like servants, working according to his orders every day, and can't we improve the food? White-tailed deer meat has so little fat that it's not even tender for you. Faced with Cedric's crying, Cole pretended to be helpless. I can't help it, Mr. Diggory. If you can use a computer, you can operate more than 400 accounts, with 27 shell financial companies and thousands of virtual accounts. There is no need for us to follow his orders anymore. We are now destitute and have no money in our account. Even the funds for decorating this room and purchasing equipment came from illegal loans I found. If this wave fails completely, you may end up working in some men's clubs in Las Vegas to pay off your debts, and I'm going to live out the rest of my life hiding in this icy and snowy hell. By the way, what do you mean I'm not soft anymore? Nothing. Cedric waved his hands and asked with some confusion, why do I have to work to pay off the debt? Didn't you borrow the money? Because I can't borrow one. Karl smiled frankly. I once had a bad memory in Las Vegas. To put it simply, I won too much money there and all the major casinos have banged me, so I can't borrow any loans myself. I signed a contract with them in your name, and they saw your photo. I am very satisfied. Besides, we are a team. In order to maintain the enthusiasm of the team and prevent anyone from jumping ship midway, I must cut off all our escape routes. Cedric looked at Karl in disbelief. He couldn't imagine that such cold words came out of a human's mouth. Anything else, Mr. Diggory? Karl still had a smile on his face. Cedric looked hopeless. He didn't make a scene, but just silently picked up the axe beside him. He lowered his head and said dully, I went to chop wood. Then he walked out of the room alone. The two people in the room looked at his lonely back, and one of them continued to smile. The other said with disdain, I thought he wanted to threaten me with an axe, but I didn't expect he had such a strange brain. Nothing. Karl smiled confidently. I know he will never hurt me, and he also knows that I will never hurt him. Then why are you doing that kind of thing in his name? Hearing this, Kevin Lestrange felt inexplicably sour in his heart. Aren't you afraid that I might mess this up on purpose? If I'm an undercover agent, now would be the best opportunity to destroy you. Nothing. Karl turned to look at him with the same confident smile. I know you won't do that. You won't betray me. You also know that I will never let down someone who treats me well. Don't say weird things, Kevin. Lestrange's cute face instantly turned red, and he scolded loudly. But no matter how he tried to hide it with words, he had to admit that his heart beat faster the moment he heard these words. Looking at the blonde boy in front of him who always had a wicked smile on his face, he suddenly felt that he seemed unable to look at that face again. A heartfelt sense of guilt surged in his heart. Boom. Boom. He didn't know how long he stared down at the floor until the sound of an alarm clock going off overhead woke him up from his own mental struggle. What if, hypothetically, something really happened that was beyond your control? Like if I really messed up, you go bankrupt and that annoying guy is forced to work in a bar like that. What would you do, Kevin? Lestrange looked up just in time to see Karl leaving the room to prepare lunch. Looking at the golden figure bathed in the sun, he couldn't help but ask, I don't like this assumption, but it is not impossible. If that happens, our organization can be disbanded. You can continue to return to Hogwarts, complete your own studies, and go wherever you want. I will not do anything to you. I am a gambler who can afford to lose. I will never lose my temper, because I can't afford to lose. Of course, if you want me to, you can also come back to this cabin once in a while and taste my cooking. As for Cedric, Cole was holding the door handle, with half of his face covered by the door. There was still a smile on that face, but there was a hint of coldness in that smile. He certainly doesn't need to work at a place like that, and if you fail, his possible future workplace will disappear. I think it's very easy for a wizard to set a fire in the Muggle world. After all, I was just a criminal before. There's nothing wrong with going back to the beginning. After saying that, Carol closed the door and hummed an unknown tune as the sound faded away. Kevin Lestrange, who was alone in the small room, was silent for a long time. Then he slapped his face hard with his hands several times. The pain made his brain clearer and temporarily drove away some distracting thoughts. Unfortunately, just when I finally woke up, someone came to sabotage again. Just as he turned around and was about to open his computer to get started, he found a note on his laptop. It was written in scribbled words. Don't stress too much. How could the person I picked fail? What you want is in the drawer on your left. Oh, good. Looking at the little expression at the very end, Lestrange felt that his brain, which had finally cleared up, began to become confused again. Especially when he opened the drawer on the left side of his desk. There were 8 small macaron-sized, exquisitely shaped cakes inside. Has a lovely fresh scent of lemon and mandarin. Chapter 297. Real Wall Street, the pulse of global finance, seems particularly mysterious in Daniel Harvey's eyes. Just half a month ago, his workplace was dozens of kilometers away from here. At that time, he had finally managed to get a role as a duty manager at Kennedy International Airport. I had thought that I would work peacefully until retirement, return to my old farm in Texas, and live out my retirement years with my pension. I never thought that one day I would step into this street, wearing a full set of haute couture suits and a full gold Gillette halter moon phase master dress watch. As a newcomer, he stood at the starting point of the street and was overwhelmed by the sight. The towering skyscrapers stand like a steel forest, each one representing the symbol of a business empire. The early morning sun shines through the gaps between densely packed buildings and onto the busy streets. The golden light interweaves with the city's steel and concrete to create a picture of light and shadow. On the streets, people are walking hurriedly, and the truth that time is money is written on everyone's face. Men in suits and women in business attire, holding coffee and cell phones to their ears. His eyes were firm and focused, as if every tiny movement affected the flow of tens of millions of funds. Ericsson GH337. Nokia 101. All kinds of latest mobile phones are available, and you have to know that these were just a few weeks ago. His kid, who just entered college, keeps sending him these cell phone related emails. I hope I can help him buy a mobile phone, but the cheapest Nokia 101 costs $6,300. It was equivalent to my monthly salary. I hesitated for several days before I reluctantly used my credit card to pay the amount. But now, the specially customized Motorola MicroTac in his expensive suit pocket is enough to buy 2 Nokia 101s, not to mention the funds that he now represents. Things have really changed a lot in just a few weeks. Somehow, he went from being a working class person to becoming a Wall Street elite. Watching the huge electronic screen scrolling the latest stock market information, he felt his heartbeat begin to quicken along with the numbers. The occasional shouts of traders and the sound of rapid typing on keyboards form a unique symphony here. The air was filled with tension and excitement. Daniel Harvey stood on the street and took a deep breath. He pulled out the customized Motorola MicroTac from his pocket and dialed the first number that had been pre-stored in it. In less than a second, the call was connected, and a flattering female voice came from the other end of the phone. Mr. Daniel Harvey, right? We have been expecting your call for a long time, and last night we suddenly received a notice from Mr. Hohenzollern. He and his technical team were caught in an avalanche while hunting in the central Rocky Mountains of Montana. That is really sad and regrettable news. Fortunately, he entrusted you to come to our bank to discuss the investment plan. Please rest assured that JP Morgan Chase has always been very generous to companies with the potential to change the world. We are willing to combine our capital with your company's technology to change the world together, so as to. Where is the car that's picking me up? Daniel Harvey interrupted the other person. At the moment he was very nervous and tried hard to keep his body from shaking. When I suddenly received this task yesterday, a note was sent along with the phone. It explained to him in concise and efficient words how to carry out the next work. The first one is written very straightforwardly. Don't pay attention to the other party's boasting. They are here to beg us. When you call them for the first time, you should immediately show your impatience. In fact, according to the requirements written by the other party, you should interrupt the other party when he/she says the second sentence. But he didn't dare, even though he was wearing a high-end suit worth tens of thousands of dollars and a gold watch worth nearly $10. But underneath this gorgeous packaging, he is just an honest old white man from the South who has lived half his life. Standing at the end of the street, he was really scared. He admitted that the air here was filled with tension and excitement, as if everyone here was striving for their own dreams and goals. But beyond those smells, what he smelled more was greed and desire. This short street is like a huge python, with many gold, silver and jewels hidden in its belly. It attracts countless people to voluntarily walk into the belly of the python. But who can really predict when the huge snake's mouth will close? Are they thieves who steal money or meals for the python? No problem. I just talked too much. Daniel Harvey, I apologize to you. The car to pick you up has already left. Just as he was sighing, the voice from the other end of the phone came again, with a hint of panic in the tone. My location is. Daniel Harvey just wanted the other party to tell him the address. The person on the other end of the phone immediately spoke anxiously. No, you don't need to tell us the address. I think someone will find you soon. Excuse me, are you Mr. Daniel Harvey? As soon as the voice on the other end of the phone fell, he felt someone tapping his shoulder. He turned around and saw a young man in a black suit and white gloves. He was looking at himself with a smile, and next to him was a brand new 1960 Cadillac sedan DeVille Point. The green paint reflected the sunlight. He looked at the car in surprise and walked forward with some disbelief. After looking around for a while, he turned to look at the young man. A 1960 Cadillac sedan DeVille. My dad had one of these, and we watched him race it around the fields in Texas. Don't you usually ride in luxury cars? I thought. Daniel Harvey seemed a little excited, but the young man still maintained his standard professional smile. He spoke slowly and calmly. You read that right. This is indeed a brand new 1960 Cadillac sedan DeVille. We also know that you and your father have many fond memories of this car, so we specifically approached Cadillac using the remaining parts in their factory. 5 new vehicles were assembled overnight, so you don't need to tell us the address, because there is a car waiting for you every 100 meters on this street. In fact, I had already noticed you. I was just waiting for you to finish your call. The way I greeted you just now might have scared you a little. I would like to express my sincere apologies to you here. Hearing this, Daniel Harvey was completely stunned and looked towards the other end of the street with an expression of disbelief. The street was only 500 meters long, but it seemed so horrible at this moment. He had never thought that a person could be treated like this. Please, get in the car. The young man opened the car door and whispered to Daniel Harvey, who was still looking into the distance. Thank you, Daniel. Harvey withdrew his gaze and sat directly in the back seat of the vehicle. The moment the door closed, he realized that his life had completely changed its trajectory and he might never go back to the farm of his childhood. Chapter 298. A sudden press conference. The green 1960 Cadillac sedan DeVille only drove a few hundred meters in circles along the way. This uniquely shaped vintage car attracted countless people's attention, most of whom were financial elites dressed in exquisite suits. They took a look silently, then lowered their heads and continued on their way. There was envy, confusion, and a hint of numbness in their eyes. Another small group were young students visiting Wall Street, who screamed and cheered as they watched the vehicles. They made all kinds of exaggerated hip-hop gestures, and some brave ones even came to the front of the car and asked if they could take pictures. Of course, the driver didn't dare to act on his own and quietly asked Daniel Harvey, who was sitting in the back seat, "Sir, do you want to call security or tell them you want to take a picture with them? But I don't recommend that. After all, there is less than half an hour until the listing bell rings. Our director and chief financial officer, I'm still waiting for you in the conference room. Do you think I also want to have a photo with this car?" Daniel Harvey smiled at the driver. Then he got off the car and started taking photos with the young people who were watching. Obviously, his behavior was extremely unique on this street and immediately attracted a large number of young tourists to watch. A young boy dressed as a science student accidentally discovered the pure gold name tag of Daniel Harvey pinned on the left chest of his suit while he was checking in. "Mr. Daniel Harvey, we are honored that you are the senior financial director of MAT. Since the press conference that shocked the world, there has been no news about this company. Where is the mysterious Mr. Hohenzollern and his team? I heard that this company is going to ring the bell to go public today. As for what the technical positions at this company require, I'm a student studying networking at MIT. I very much hope to join your company in the future." As soon as the excited voice of this science and engineering man rang out, a group of reporters appeared like mushrooms growing out of the ground. Suddenly, they came out from every corner, holding cameras and video cameras, and pointing recorders or recording phones directly in front of Daniel Harvey. Faced with such a situation, Daniel Harvey was undoubtedly nervous, and he began to regret his decision. But when he thought of the words on the note, the decisiveness that suddenly burst out at the critical moment was once again demonstrated in him. He looked at the reporters surrounding him without changing his expression and spoke slowly in a calm tone. "Thank you very much for your concern, but it is a very sad news to announce to Mr. Hohenzollern and his team. They had originally planned to attend the listing bell ringing ceremony today, but unfortunately, they were caught in an avalanche while hunting in the central Rocky Mountains of Montana. Although there is no danger to life, the surrounding traffic has been closed. Mr. Hohenzollern will not be able to meet with everyone for at least a week, so I was entrusted to prepare for the final negotiation. The success of the listing ceremony often largely determines the growth of a company's stock within a month. It is hard not to make too many assumptions about this kind of accident happening at such a critical time, considering the plans your company has announced. Even ordinary science fiction directors can't imagine it. Many people have been promoting it on the internet. This is nothing more than a ridiculous scam. As soon as Daniel Harvey finished speaking, a reporter from Fox TV couldn't wait to start asking questions. It can be seen that the other party is somewhat resentful, and the questions he asks are very tricky point faced with such blatant provocation. Daniel Harvey did not directly refute the other party point, they just stared at each other with squinted eyes, and the two sides immediately entered a state of confrontation. Of course, the reporters didn't want to miss such a tense scene, and their flash cameras kept flashing, as if they were free. After a full minute, the driver got out of the car and opened his arms, trying to smooth things over. Please keep quiet. Mr. Harvey is here on behalf of Mr. Hohenzollern to sign a shareholding agreement with our bank. As a senior executive in charge of finance, it is understandable that he does not know much about technical information. Please leave for now. We don't have enough time now. And please don't bring political emotions into normal trading on Wall Street. This was a very well-spoken statement, which not only protected Daniel Harvey's face, but also provided sufficient reasons at the same time. He implied that the other party, as a Republican TV station, brought political emotions into normal interviews in an attempt to divert the current conflict. There is no political sentiment here. We just want answers to our questions. That's our job as journalists. It is also fulfilling the right to know granted to citizens by the Constitution. For a listed company, it takes at least 3 to 4 months to review its financial statements before listing. But, as far as we know, the review of Matt's financial report took less than 2 weeks. Is there something fishy going on here? Such an abnormal situation, doesn't it require a reasonable explanation? The Fox reporter was not moved at all and continued to ask in a tough tone. Public company review is the job of the Secretary, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and I can't tell you the specifics. As for what you just said, our company is nothing more than a carefully planned scam. This is a complete slander. I will immediately send you all the audio material I heard during this interview. After I finish my work, it has been fully handed over to our company's legal department, and a lawsuit will be filed against Fox TV in a New York court. Daniel Harvey finally spoke, his tone still calm, as if he had expected all this while speaking. He took out a strange object from his right pocket. It had a 4.5-inch screen and no physical buttons. He gently turned on the screen and started operating it with just one finger. Pressing an icon point, the icon immediately expanded and began playing all the interview recordings of the reporter just now. Everyone listened to these voices with their eyes wide open, and everyone stared at the screen in Daniel Harvey's hand in amazement. Daniel Harvey, is this a cell phone? After about another minute of silence, the science and engineering man from MIT asked tentatively, how is that possible? Look at how smooth the operation is, and the sound quality. How can this be a mobile phone? It doesn't even have a play button. You know nothing. IBM also launched a concept phone, the IBM Simon, which also has no physical buttons. It can do a lot of things, but I can assure you that their system is shit compared to what we just saw. Chapter 299. Choose the most popular strategy. The discussions among the crowd attracted more and more onlookers, even tourists from various countries who came just to visit. They couldn't help but gather around, and the crowd gathered together, completely blocking the entire street. But no one honked the horn. After hearing these discussions, the Wall Street elites who were busy at work got off the bus one after another. I hurried over to take a look at the magical mobile phone in Daniel Harvey's hand. Some people even spend a lot of money to buy a front seat from bystanders in order to get a better position. Seeing the crowds gathering, Daniel Harvey smiled bitterly and shook his head. He suddenly felt that Mr. Hohenzollern was not a person who lived in his own era. It should be a time traveler who can travel through time and space. The words written on the note are simply some kind of prophecy. Or it can be said that it is a carefully prepared script, and no matter what you do, you will end up following this script. Before the formal negotiations, there should be a small press conference, using the phone next to you and your own language. Try to create news that is positive for the stock market, and enclose a cell phone manual and your payslip. 0.1% of the company's shares can be bought and sold at any time. Thinking back to the words on the papers, Daniel Harvey sighed deeply, then gathered his thoughts, looked at everyone, and said seriously, "You guessed it right. This is a mobile phone, Mocotech one, a smartphone that truly represents the future. Please forgive me, a person without technical education, for its technical parameters and detailed description of its functions. I can't explain it to you in such a tense moment, but what I can show you is that when you have a device like this, you have a camera, video camera, and audio recorder that's always ready to go, and you never have to worry about memory issues." After saying that, Daniel Harvey pointed at the science and engineering man and motioned him to come over to him. He then operated his mobile phone, turned on its camera function, and handed it to the driver next to him. "Come closer, young man. Let's show them a live show." The bright white circle at the bottom is the shutter. Tap lightly to take a photo. Hold it down to record a video. "Please take a photo for us. Thank you. Please take a better photo of me." Daniel Harvey's words are very down to earth, and even the words he uses are very simple. Even the lowest country folk can probably understand them. He didn't have the usual high-sounding feeling of a Wall Street elite if he wasn't wearing an expensive haute couture suit. Many people would think that the person standing in front of them is not a corporate executive at all, but more like a Texas farmer or those vulgar factory workers in upstate New York. But compared to Daniel Harvey's relaxed and happy look, the driver's hands were shaking as he took the smartphone. As an elite who has been in the financial circle for so many years, don't look at him as a driver for customers now. This just proves his status and ability level, and also shows that he is very aware of the small electronic product in his hand. It is very likely that tens of billions of capital value will be created in the next 24 hours. Crack. Finally, after shaking for more than 30 seconds, the driver touched the screen and the smartphone made an electronic simulated shutter sound. A digital photo is taken in this way. Daniel Harvey took the phone from the trembling driver and immediately turned on the screen to show the photo to everyone. It's so clear, it must have at least several million pixels. Pixels don't matter. Can you please focus on the point? The key is that the device is so small, the film is still being produced so quickly. What does this mean? What does it mean? Is the thing good? It represents the smoothness of the system and the advanced algorithms, which shows that this is already a mature product. Several students who were also dressed as science and engineering students started talking about the photo as soon as they saw it, and their voices became louder and louder. The crowd's voices of surprise were growing louder and louder, unlike the ordinary people who were just there to watch the fun. However, there was a strange greed flashing in the eyes of those Wall Street elites. "Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Harvey. This is truly the happiest day of my life. This is the first time I have truly felt the charm of science and technology. Thank you very much for letting me experience this cutting-edge technology. It's just a pity that I can't keep this memory." Just as everyone was talking about it, the Wall Street elites were frantically calling their leaders. The MIT student was so excited that he was dancing with joy, and he kept thanking Daniel Harvey. Daniel Harvey had a complicated expression on his face as he looked at the somewhat dull-looking college student in front of him. Thinking of the words written on the note again, I couldn't help but feel a chill on my back. But after a moment's hesitation, he forced a smile, looked at the other person and asked kindly, "What's your name, kid?" "Ah." The college student was obviously stunned for a moment, and then answered ecstatically, "Leonard Cranrock, sir. That's my name, Leonard Cranrock." Daniel Harvey repeated the other party's name and then smiled bitterly. Said, shaking his head, "It seems that you really like network computers. If I'm not mistaken, this name is the name of the famous father of data networking. Should also be teaching at MIT right now." "Yes sir, I'm very honored to have the same last name as that gentleman, but of course I'm not related to him by blood, and I haven't gotten to that point yet. I haven't qualified for a master's degree yet." Leonard Kleinrock was so happy that he jumped up and down with excitement, and the silly round frame glasses on his nose almost fell to the ground. Looking at the other person's excited expression, Daniel Harvey patted him on the shoulder and signaled him not to get excited. Then he pretended to look sad and said in a deliberate manner, "Who dares to say anything more about the father of data network? Without your contribution, the mobile phone I have in my hand would not exist. Thank you for your contribution. On behalf of our company, I would like to give you this phone." After saying that, Daniel Harvey looked at the driver and made a gesture. "Do you have a signature pen or something? I need to leave a trace. After all, this is the company's property. I have to find Mr. Hohenzollern later. Go to the finance department to make up this part of the payment." Such humorous words made everyone present laugh. The driver was also very professional and got into the car immediately. In less than a moment, he took out a black marker and handed it to the other party. Daniel Harvey took the pen and wrote a paragraph directly on the metal back panel of the smartphone. "May you set sail on the ocean of the future network, Daniel Harvey presents." After writing, he handed the phone directly to the college student. The other party was so excited that he trembled all over and asked again and again whether it was really a gift to him. "Of course, I'll give it to you. I hope you can really come to our company in the future, Daniel," Harvey answered with a smile and shook hands cordially with the other party. Countless reporters captured this scene. Looking at the flashing camera lights, he tried to keep smiling and recalled the last words on the note. "Here's a little tip for you. After the press conference starts, don't choose the best way. Don't choose the most correct way. Choose the way with the most traffic. This is the secret to whether a press conference is successful." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 300, Transaction in the Elevator. "This is really wonderful, sir. I have been in the industry for so many years and have seen countless technology companies preparing to go public on Wall Street. Most of them behaved strangely, revealing a kind of intellectual stupidity that I have never seen in any company before it went public. I can assure you that such a perfect marketing campaign can be completed in just that short 10-minute press conference. It can at least push up the stock price by 20-30% today. Not far from Wall Street is the headquarters building of JP Morgan Chase Bank, 1 Manhattan Plaza Point. As soon as they got off the car, the driver acted as a guide, excitedly standing beside Daniel Harvey and praising his magical operation non-stop. Daniel Harvey remained silent, looking around at the huge building in front of him with a modernist architectural style and glass curtain wall design. He followed the other person, but did not see the busy crowd as he had imagined. The surrounding environment had obviously been specially cleaned. Even the marble floor beneath his feet had been coated with a layer of polished wax. If there was a beautiful lady in professional attire to guide me, I would be in for a real treat. When First Chase Manhattan Plaza was first built, it served as the global headquarters for JP Morgan Chase Bank and has witnessed the growth of our company. From a local bank to a global financial giant, this building is not only a symbol of JP Morgan Chase Bank, but also one of the important landmarks of New York's financial district, representing the development and strength of the US financial industry. I believe you have seen photos of this building in many books or newspapers. In the process of leading the way, in addition to complimenting the other party, the driver also played the role of a tour guide very well. At the same time, they're just their walking speed according to the pace of their customers, to avoid walking too fast or too slow and affecting their customers. On the other hand, of course, you also have to talk endlessly about the strength and history of your company, how far is it to the elevator? Daniel Harvey listened to the other party's bragging and raised his hand to look at the time on his watch. Said in a cold tone, "We only have about 10 minutes. There's no need to tell me your company's spirit and history lessons now. If this cooperation is very pleasant, I believe I will have many opportunities to come to this building in the future. Of course, I probably wouldn't want to hear that at the time. If I had a bottle of good Kentucky whiskey and a few pounds of Texas pastrami, I might have come more often." After saying that, Daniel Harvey smiled at the driver, and the other party nodded repeatedly. "Of course, I believe we can complete the cooperation. At the same time, I will tell you a piece of news that I know. All the arrangements for the Wall Street trading floor have been completed. Let's just say we are absolutely sincere. No matter how you talk to each other for the next 10 minutes, that's not going to change. You are very confident." Daniel Harvey looked at the other person with a smile and followed him into the exclusive VIP elevator. As soon as he entered the elevator, the other party took out an exclusive elevator card and handed it to him. "This is your exclusive elevator card, and it is also your pass to enter this building. From now on, you can use this pass, use this top level elevator at any time, and communicate directly with our executives, available 24 hours a day. By the way, to ensure safety, all persons holding passes must be employed by the bank in accordance with the bank's rules and regulations." "You mean you want me to quit my job and work with you?" Daniel Harvey pinched the elevator card between two fingers. He didn't put it in his pocket, but tilted his head to look at the young man in front of him. "Please, don't misunderstand me." The driver waved his hands repeatedly. "Of course, it is an honor for our company to have such an outstanding talent like you willing to join our company, but we are also very clear that your company also has great development prospects, not to mention that you have the recognition of Mr. Hohenzollern. I just want to inform you that according to the regulations, you are holding this card. You will automatically become our company's senior technical consultant with the same salary as a senior manager. Your salary will be automatically deposited into your account. You want to bribe me?" Daniel Harvey's face suddenly darkened. According to US law, any employee of a company, I can't use my working time to do extra part-time jobs. If I accept this, wouldn't it be a crime? Of course not. Don't get any misunderstanding. The driver said calmly, "We have not officially registered you as our employee. Your salary and all benefits are covered by an independent fund. Your position as a senior technical advisor is also an independent third-party monitoring agency, which is part of the federal level supervision of large companies. Many company executives hold such positions, as do many state senators and federal representatives, who are fighting to create a fair business environment. Many business leaders work for similar third-party organizations, which will have no impact on your work and safety. The entire process is in full compliance with federal law, and no one will come to trouble you." Daniel Harvey was silent, looking at the card in his hand, which was completely black and decorated with gorgeous gold lines. He had a feeling that he was seeing the truth about the world for the first time. Half a month ago, he was just an ordinary blue-collar worker. Although he became a so-called small leader, he was a typical person with little pay, a lot of work and heavy responsibilities. "I work 8 or 9 hours a day and often have to stay up late to work overtime. But even so, pension expenses are increasing year by year. The salary and benefits are getting worse every year. Not only has the basic salary never increased, but the various welfare benefits are even more pitifully low. What's even more infuriating is that crappy property tax. Just because the federal government's valuation of houses changes according to market rules, they force you to pay hundreds of dollars more every month. The cost of living changes with the market, so why shouldn't income levels change with the market? Employees' wages have not increased year by year, but the company's costs have been rising year by year. The superiors are urgently demanding layoffs, saying that there is not much business. The employees under him were all full of resentment and there was simply no work to be done. After all this time, it's not that there is no money, it's just that the money is all in these places. I don't like such vague statements about how senior managers are paid. I need accurate figures." Daniel Harvey asked in a calm tone, shaking the card in his right hand. Chapter 301 Extraordinary Treatment and Negotiation Object. What did you say? The driver was a little confused when he was suddenly asked this question, as he was a veteran employee who had worked at Morgan Chase Bank for more than 10 years. Even for such special occasions, he had experienced it no less than 20 or 30 times, but no one had ever asked so directly, and for a moment he even doubted his ears. I don't want to repeat the question just now. I believe you heard it clearly. To tell you the truth, I have never been to college. I'm afraid you know my life experience better than I do. I'm a cowboy from the countryside of Texas. I don't have much culture and I speak directly, so just tell me the answer. Daniel Harvey looked nonchalant. Okay. The driver seemed a little nervous. In fact, from the moment he met this country bumpkin, he didn't think much of him deep down in his heart point, but what happened along the way changed his mind and proved that the other party was a very capable person point, especially that impromptu press conference, which was completely beyond their company's control point. But he managed to rely on the country bumpkin in front of him, his own rhythm and ability to control the situation. To sneak attack on reporters that seemed to have been planned for a long time point, it has become the best publicity for the company before its listing, and now the other party can almost be said to be showing its hand point. It turned out that the other party knew that his company had investigated him since he got on the car. Annual salary of $25, completely after tax, with monthly reimbursement in US dollars, and a private car worth less than $50 with a driver. Annual membership in golf clubs in 13 states across the US, senior membership in a federal airline, and $6 in annual travel expense reimbursement, 80 days of paid annual leave, no need to be present at work on weekdays, just come out to read reports at important moments. The driver said sincerely, do I need to write the report myself? No need, we have an absolutely professional team, you just need to be in charge of the appearance. Of course there are many other things like film and television banquets, the celebratory dinner and other work contents are too complicated for me to explain in detail here. After hearing what the other party said about the treatment, Daniel Harvey couldn't help but smile bitterly, his eyes fixed on the small card point. His heart was filled with conflict, as the education he received since childhood told him that he could not accept such things, but the desire in his heart forced him to not put down the card in his hand point. As he was struggling, he couldn't help but close his eyes, and the note suddenly came to his mind point. On the back of the note, the author may have deliberately left a sentence, writing, if you are really ready to enter this field, you must ensure that you are not so clean and live in a cesspool. Once you are too clean, you will stand out and become a target of dislike for others. Those who are always greedy for money bring about their own destruction. Daniel Harvey whispered to himself, Proverbs 28:19 in the Bible. You seem to be a devout believer, but there is absolutely no need for you to feel any psychological burden. All of this is reasonable and legal, and it is the reward you deserve as an outstanding elite. After hearing Daniel Harvey's soliloquy, the driver immediately stated the source of this famous quote. I know. Daniel Harvey put the card into his pocket and looked at the other person with a smile. In the small space of the elevator, he could clearly observe the changes on the other person's face. He found that, when he put the card into his pocket point, the other party was obviously relieved and looked at him with a smile. Ding. The bell rang and the elevator arrived at the station. When the elevator door slowly opened to both sides, Daniel Harvey just stepped out of the elevator. Suddenly he spoke inexplicably. God bless America. The driver nearby was puzzled when he heard this and had no idea what the other party meant, but as a true elite point he knew very well that his work had ended here and he could no longer interfere with what happened next. Point. The elevator door stops at a large flat that connects all households. The entire first floor of the building is integrated into a huge room. Point. It is called a room, but in fact it is more like a huge art exhibition hall. Point. There were countless transparent glass cabinets filled with all kinds of artworks. Even for a country bumpkin like him from the Texas countryside. Point. He was able to recognize several of them, as he had even seen many of the artworks in the textbooks he had studied. Point. Daniel Harvey walked on the mahogany floor that had just been waxed. As he walked forward, He was surprised to find that the mahogany floor in front of him was very smooth. The wood grains that are spliced together are actually connected, which means that all the wooden boards that cover the entire floor are connected. It was most likely taken as a whole from a huge mahogany tree. He could hardly imagine its value, and time did not allow him to think about it any further. "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Daniel Harvey, a middle-aged white man of medium build, deep eyes, a smile and slight baldness, wearing a well-fitting high-end suit." He walked towards him and stretched out his right hand from a distance. After shaking hands, he introduced himself cordially. "My name is Jamie Dimon. I'm the CEO and chairman of the board of directors of JP Morgan Chase Bank, and I'm very happy to welcome you here. There have been some minor incidents along the way, but they just prove your ability. I believe that the whole Wall Street is talking about it now, regarding the impromptu launch event you held on the street. There is no better way of marketing than that. It is really shocking and admirable. As soon as we met, the other party complimented me so much, and half a month ago, the other party was a big shot that I couldn't even imagine." The CEO of JP Morgan Chase Bank can be considered one of the few people standing at the top of the entire US federal government. Looking at the friendly middle-aged man in front of me, he exudes confidence and relaxation from head to toe. That calm and unhurried feeling made Daniel Harvey feel a little inferior, as he was probably about the same age as the other person. But how can I compare myself with the other person? 2 weeks ago, I was still worrying about my future pension. The other party brought their guests here to enjoy the artworks in a relaxed manner, while casually negotiating deals worth tens of billions of dollars in comparison. Perhaps except for the hair on my head, I really have no advantages at all. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but blurt out, "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Damon. You are a famous figure. Compared to you, the only thing I can be proud of is the hair on my head." Chapter 302. The outcome is decided. What? Jamie Dimon was visibly stunned for a few seconds. He is the CEO and chairman of the board of directors of JP Morgan Chase Bank. Normally, even federal senators wouldn't dare to make such jokes when meeting with him. Not to mention the financing representatives of listed companies, who were all trembling in front of him and tried every means to please him. But he didn't expect this Texas cowboy to make fun of his hair, but as an old fox who has been active in the financial market for many years, he quickly reacted and joked in a calm tone, "Of course. Being the CEO of JP Morgan Chase Bank is a damn position that will make anyone lose their hair. There are countless tedious tasks to deal with every day. From the moment I opened my eyes, countless reports were waiting for me to review over the phone. It's been a long time since I enjoyed a dinner cooked by my wife. Even if I have the best nutritionist, look at my stomach. It's not as flat as yours." As he said this, the billionaire, who was worth tens of billions, actually unbuttoned his suit and exposed his big belly, which was covered by his tailor-made clothes. He revealed it directly in front of Daniel Harvey and even patted him on purpose. "You are really honest." Looking at the middle-aged man in front of him who was patting his big belly in front of him. Daniel Harvey also had to say that sometimes success requires many conditions, but personal ability is always an indispensable part. At least now it seems that this long-renowned wealthy man is indeed not an ordinary person. Everything that happened next further confirmed his thoughts. After the two sides exchanged greetings, he was led by the other party to the place where the real discussion was to take place. There was no luxurious leather sofa as imagined, but instead two wooden rocking chairs that were very common in Texas farmlands, and there are no expensive works of art around. Instead there is a huge photograph. The photo was probably taken in the fields of Texas. In the foreground of the photo, golden corn cobs are densely arranged, like a shimmering golden ocean. The sunlight shines through the clouds and onto the rice fields, making each corn kernel sparkle with warm light. In the middle of the photo, you can see a group of cattle and sheep foraging leisurely on the green grass. Their figures appear particularly harmonious under the sunlight, blending into the surrounding natural scenery. In the background of the photo, a quaint farm building stands on the horizon, its color complementing the surrounding natural scenery, adding a sense of tranquility and history to the entire picture. The light and shadow effects in the entire photo are excellent. The interweaving of sunlight and shadow makes the whole picture full of three-dimensionality. The atmosphere of the photo is warm and peaceful, making people feel the tranquility and beauty of the Texas farmland. Of course, the most important point is that the photo is large enough to completely surround the two wooden rocking chairs being in it. He seemed to be back in the summer of his childhood, sitting on the balcony of the house with his father and brothers, listening to country music on the radio, drinking beer and watching the rising sun in the distance slowly disappear over the horizon. Please take a seat, sir. As the host, Jamie Dimon took the lead in extending the invitation, and then he took the lead and lay down in a rocking chair. His body swayed rhythmically, and he seemed to be enjoying the feeling at the moment. You really put a lot of effort into this. Daniel Harvey sat in the rocking chair on the other side. He didn't lie down on it, nor did he enjoy the feeling of the rocking. He just sat on the edge of the rocking chair, staring straight at the big shot in front of him. From the moment I entered Wall Street, or more precisely, from the moment you got the news, you have investigated all my past. I can even say that you now know me better than I know myself. There was no need for that either. The bug in the Cadillac or the scene in the elevator. You know I'm just a country boy. I didn't go to college, not even community college. I haven't played any stocks. The only financial investment I've made is buying 1 or 2 lottery tickets while drinking beer. I don't need you to treat me like this, because I can't give you the same reward for your efforts. I'm just a messenger who comes to convey your request. As Daniel Harvey spoke, he handed over the card he received in the elevator, along with an A4 paper filled with words. He placed it on the small table between the two rocking chairs, then sat there quietly, observing the expressions on each other's faces. Boom. I don't know how much time passed until a crisp sound broke the silence between the two of them. Jamie Dimon did not continue to enjoy the happiness brought to him by the rocking chair, but instead took out a barrel of fully gassed beer from somewhere. The seal on the beer barrel was pried open directly, and the gas gushed out with a crisp sound, and countless delicate snow white foams were accompanied by golden and transparent liquid. It was poured into 2 huge beer glasses. He took the 2 glasses of beer in his hands, stood up and handed one of them to the other party. What does this mean? Daniel Harvey asked puzzledly, looking at the full glass of draft beer in front of him. I don't mean anything else. Jamie Dimon gave a sincere smile, and then forced the beer into the other party's hand. He tilted his head back, and drank his own cup in one gulp. The cold, refreshing liquid went down his throat straight into his stomach. Accompanied by a crisp hiccup. This banker, who usually appears elegant and graceful in TV interviews, it seemed that as I drank this glass of beer, I became one of the office workers on the streets of New York, starting to indulge themselves wildly. After get off work. He unbuttoned his exquisite Windsor bow tie and the first button of his shirt, looking at Daniel Harvey with his chest half exposed. Do not doubt your eyes, dear sir. This is what I have always wanted to do. You know, in my position, I control this bank and hundreds of billions of dollars of capital on its books. It seems like I can do anything, but in reality, I can't even control what I want to eat for lunch. I have to strictly follow the diet that the nutritionist prepares for me. It has been a long time since I had a drink like this. As he spoke, the banker poured himself another full glass of draft beer, then tilted his head back and drank it all in one gulp. After a few loud hiccups, he took out his pen from the left pocket of his suit. I didn't even look at what was written on the A4 paper and just signed my name at the end. Then he raised his beer glass, opened his arms and laughed loudly. Let's toast to Mr. Hohenzollern. He is truly a genius. He won the deal. Hearing this, Daniel Harvey was still a little confused. He also raised his glass, but still asked with some doubts, why did you just give up like that? After asking this question, he thought the other party would come up with a lot of professional terms and scientific basis. However, he did not expect that this prestigious banker would just point at him and speak sincerely with a smile on his face. The reason is very simple, because he chose you, whether here or on Wall Street. Even in the entire stock game, a truly capable, honest and loyal subordinate is much more valuable than billions of funds. In the ocean of money, no one can guarantee that his subordinates will betray him one day. You did not betray Mr. Hohenzollern today. That's why he won, at least today. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.